to try to participate in the Charcha and listening to all the panels and all. So in my address, I would like to focus not on what government is doing, that I will be doing anyway, or rather what government is not doing perhaps. But I would like to place before you some challenges which the skill ecosystem faces. And I will expect this 3-day Charcha to focus on at least some of the challenges and throw us some roadmaps for us to work on to meet both the challenges which are general skilling system eco challenges and COVID-induced challenges, because a lot of challenges have come in which has been induced by COVID. Now, skilling has been recognized by everyone as one of the important pillars which will help India become a global economy. We always talk that there's a demographic dividend which we have to take, and this dividend is available for a short time only. Basically, what is happening that the growth of the productive population is going to go up only up to 2036. After that, the curve will flatten. So we have a window of 15 years for demographic structure to change to a dependent majority one. So we have to exploit this 15 years so that the dividend we can exploit, because if we don't exploit this large young population is a boon if we use them properly, and is a bane, is very dangerous if they are not utilized properly. So aim of the skilling ministry when it was formed was always to have skilling in speed and in scale, in large scale, so that in short time we can skill a lot of people, do quality skilling to the satisfaction of the industry, and make it aspirational. A lot of progress has happened in the last 6 years. A large ecosystem has been developed. The short-term training in partnership with the industry. Long-term training has also increased in size, almost double in size. A nascent regulatory structure is also taking shape. And some new age skills like Internet of Things, other data mining, etc. have been incorporated, both in the long term and short term. But as I said, the challenges remain. I will just list out the challenges for you in this time, the 15-minute time which I have. So some of the major challenges of the system, first is that, very surprising, but demand for formal skilling in the country is very limited. This looks surprising, one, that why you are saying that demand for formal skilling is very limited. See, there are a couple of reasons. First is that the labor sector, the economic sector, 80% is informal. Now, being informal, the demand for formal skilling is very limited in the informal sector. I think not more than 3% of the labor employed in informal sector is formally skilled. There what happens, there is a young boy called Chotu who helps the craftsman, and slowly he becomes a craftsman over time. The Chotu culture, which I say, happens in the informal sector. So formal skilling is very limited. Even the formal system, what if you analyze the data of the firms, more than 70% of the firms are less than 20% size. That less than 20 employees are there in those firms. So what happens? Such firms generally don't have the propensity to have skilled labor. Many reasons, perhaps each of the labor is multi-skilled. This is one thing we should look at, how to train multi-skilled labor. The cost of skilling may go up when the base is small. And of course, the skilled manpower expects a higher wage, so the costs go up. So the smaller firms may not be going for a skilled manpower. Other thing which has happened in the last 20 years is that the share of contract labor has gone up from around 15% in the beginning of the century. It has gone up to almost 26%. Now, in the contract labor, the relationship between the employer and the employee is limited, so the employer doesn't want to invest in the skilling. So one of the challenges is how to increase this demand of the formal skilling, especially in the informal sector. If you're not able to formalize the informal sector, at least increase the demand in the formal skilling. Second, paradoxically, what is happening to the employers are saying that we don't get skilled people. There's the second thing, the opposite of it. Ideally, you should expect that with so many skilled persons, anyone coming in should get a job. But employers saying more than 50% employers in a survey by Manpower said that We don't get skilled employees. Even those who are skilled, they are not fit enough to work. We have to train them again. So this is a mismatch. Perhaps our recent attempts to work in partnership with the industry may address this situation a bit. Third, there is a big information asymmetry. See, I am a person who wants to do skilling. I am a class 12 dropout or class 10 dropout. I want to do some skilling. Which area I should do the skilling? Where the jobs are available? Which place I should do the skilling? What kind of skilling I should do? I'm not aware. And the employers are not aware. If they want a plumber, where do I go for a plumber? They're also not aware. So this mismatch, information asymmetry is there. Other thing is that the skill ecosystem in the government system is very, very weak. You see RD department, rural development department, or see the agriculture department. They have foot on the ground, right at the village level, they have people, the block level, the district level. Skilling system doesn't have that kind of manpower there. So it affects a lot of programs of mobilization, counseling, which we like to do at the local level. That person can come and sit and he can be counseled that what is best for him to a psychometric test and all that. That we can't do because our foot is not there on the ground. That is another challenge. And the regulatory structure is very weak here in the skilling ecosystem. We don't have a statutory backed by law, any institution which can regulate the system. Like if an X trainer is training a plumber and a Y trainer is training a plumber, I can't know that whether X is better, Y is better, what is teaching. Now NCVT has come in, but it is to executive order. It's more a voluntary kind of thing where people try to get into the NCVT system and make it acceptable. Over time, perhaps this may become acceptable. So NCVT will become a strong regulator over time when public acceptance of NCVT goes up. But as of now, that is a weakness. A lot of people give training, which is not standard, which is not common. So we don't know what is the thing, what the plumber has learned by training with that X or Y or Z trainer. Also, there is a shortage of trainers and training institutions. Our ecosystem is still not developed to. So what we do, we catch X or Y, Z and give them a short capsule to become a trainer. That affects the quality also. The skilling requirement itself is changing so rapidly. Technological disruption, business disruption is affecting the skilling requirement. You don't know that tomorrow what is skills I have today will be available tomorrow. For example, driver. Tomorrow, 10 years from now, driverless cars will become normal. So a driver who is I have a skilled driver, my jobs are gone. It won't be there at all. Even business disruption, like this lockdown is there. A lot of people have got into habit of cutting their own hair. I don't have much hair, so I don't have the problem, but are cutting their own hair. So after the lockdown gets over, I may get used to, I may happy with my act of cutting my hair, so I may not go to a barber at all in future. The same thing happened when this safety measure came in. Now everyone shaves themselves. No one goes to the barber for shaving. So that market is totally gone. Similarly, the market for hair cutting may gone. Similarly, other markets may go away. Some other markets may come in also. Like the local your grocer may start home delivery. You don't know. May start home delivery because he has seen that during lockdown, home delivery is the preferred mode of delivering safely goods without being affected by virus. So a lot of these disruptions keep on occurring. It's not like education where the basic educational sector remains same over a period of 10 years, 20 years, and the change is slowly comes in. Here the change may be very rapid. So what you learn today may not be available there tomorrow in the market at all. And nature of business is also changing with the Uber, urban clap, the gig economy. So if I'm just trained as a driver, I may have to have additional skills to act as a Uber driver. I should know how to negotiate the Google map, how to interact with the customer, how to make digital payments. All those things has to be added to the skilling. And the final challenge remains the skilling is still not aspirational in India. All of us who are participating in this seminar, whether speaking or listening, I think the last choice will be for the children or themselves or their brothers, depending on the age, that I'll make him a plumber or I'll make him a Uber driver. Everyone wants to do BA, MA, BTech, MTech, whatever. Everyone wants to go to higher education. Because India is a country who thinks higher of people who work through their brains instead of those who work through hands. Even today, a Uber driver may be earning more than a BPO employee. But in the social scale, the BPO employee thinks I am above the Uber driver, even though I am earning more. This is a major challenge, how to make skill aspiration as the preferred. See, if I don't want to go for research or higher education, why should I go for higher education at all? I should be going for skilling. I mean, that spirit has to come. Now, COVID has caused more challenges. I'm not talking about courses which have got delayed, apprenticeship which has got delayed. So that will be rectified once the system normalizes with some delay and some fast track activity. We will be able to come on board by the start of the next academic year. But there are more fundamental challenges. See, now the COVID has impacted the economy badly. Even the GDP growth projections, which was around 5% in February, have been reduced to 1 to 2% now. Unemployment is said to have grown 4 times from February up to 27% is the latest figure I read today. And some sectors have been impacted very badly. Tourism, hospitality, they will take time. People are not going to travel much. Aviation, very badly. And some have minimal impact. Some have benefited also, like healthcare, pharma, they have benefited also. So demand side is going to be affected very badly because may not have so many jobs. Second thing, the labor market itself has changed. All those migrants we have been hearing and seeing going back. Now, many of the migrants are not going to come back, at least for 1 year or 2 year time. I have heard people saying, कि 2 रोटी कम खाएंगे, यहीं रहेंगे, घर पर रहेंगे, नहीं जाना हमको दिल्ली को. So they have felt that they have been treated badly in the big city, which they have contributed to it. Now they are skilled, but the skills are not compatible to what is jobs available in the home states, in the home districts. I may be a good factory employee, but there's no factory in my home district. That's why I went to the city. So they will have to be reskilled. New job opportunities have to be found in their home districts. Even those who have stayed back, as I said, that some of the sectors have been impacted. So they will find their jobs are not there at all. So they may not get jobs in those areas. And even there where the sectors have not been impacted, what I expect the employers to shift solely towards automation. What is going to happen to take care of a future impact like this COVID? The dependency on labor will be, whoever can afford will try to reduce the dependency on labor. We will go for automation. So job demand is going to go down badly, both for the reasons of the economy and both because of the COVID, people planning for COVID kind of a situation in the future. Then, so we need our systems of training, etc., to change to address these issues. But our skill institutional capacity is very weak. It cannot so fast change over to address the situation. Other thing, what will happen that this COVID impacted behavioral norms is going to remain. The virus may go away in 6 months, go away in 1 year, but the behavioral norms which has been put in as a precaution towards virus is going to remain for at least 1 or 2 years, like social distancing. Crowded classrooms, we can't have. Crowded job melas, we can't have. The counseling, where everyone face-to-face is a very common thing in skilling system. You have to work with hand to know face-to-face. So we have to design online substitutes for each of the activities in the value chain. Mobilization, counseling, training, up till the employment part, job melas, we have to do all this. Now, classes also, we can't have 100% online substitutes because it is skills. It's not history, geography, or physics where you can have everything given online. You're hands-on. You have to finally learn to drive the lathe, how to operate the lathe, or how operate the machine, drilling machine. Except for computer-based classes, all other things will require a practical experience. But a lot of things can be given through online. And the last small component can be kept as a. So you have to analyze each course, what extent we can go online, and to what extent will remain when face-to-face kind of training. And when we talk going online, we should keep in mind that the clientele here, the stakeholders here, are students from the subaltern class, don't have laptop or a PC or an iPhone or a Samsung S, whatever is now the S20 or whatever is there now. Don't have that. The maximum they will have a 3,000 to 5,000 smartphone at the best case scenario to see a WhatsApp and all that. So our online programs can't be just imported from other places and imposed here. It has to be designed for such a clientele. These are major challenges and requiring a lot of money and a lot of time. So I think efficient and effective answers are both efficient, cost-wise and time-wise, and effective answers are required. We while in the government we are doing a lot of thinking on how to go about it, but I always feel the crowdsourcing is the best way to get things. So with so many people participating, I see that how many other, I think 100, I saw a number of 100 or something participants as of now, and 3 days more will be there. Some solutions will come in. I'm hoping so. And so thanks a lot for giving the opportunity to pose before you. I think I'm just beyond the limit. I'm just in the limit, 15 minutes time. Thanks a lot. I'm told there's no question answer session, but anyway, I'll be following you anonymously this Charcha. I have asked for to be allowed to be listen to the entire Charcha anonymously whenever I have time. I'll be doing that. And I hope at the end of it, I get some good solutions or at least a roadmap or some direction how to go ahead to meet these challenges. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for the opening address and for shedding light on the challenges in the skill development sector and the impact of COVID-19 on the same. It was really nice to listen to you, sir, and we're really glad that you could be a part of this event. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm leaving formally now, and so I won't be visible, but I will be there. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. So let us now proceed to a keynote address by Mr. Ajay Chaudhary, who is the chairman of Electronics Sector Skills Council and the founder of HCL. So one of the 6 founder members of HCL, Mr. Ajay Chaudhary, is currently the chairman of the board of governors of IIT Naya Raipur and the chairman of Electronics Sector Skills Council of India. He is a Padma Bhushan awardee for his consistent contribution in building the IT industry of the nation, besides several accolades received for his key role in championing the cause of domestic Indian IT market. Mr. Chaudhary has been involved in going to this society through his charitable trust called Swayam. Besides, he's also the board member of the Population Foundation of India and a trustee of Save Life Foundation. And he plays an important advisory role in advocacy efforts. Thank you so much for joining us today, sir. We request you to take over now with the keynote address.
Thank you, Medha.
Thank you, sir.
Well, COVID has created a lot of uncertainty, as we really don't know for sure when and how we will go forward in the next 6 to 12 months. We could see a W curve where there could be recurrence and lockdowns. So we will have to learn to live with it. There is no real option. Things can only change once we are sure of a cure and a vaccine. So people will be very careful, and therefore, if you look at, even if a TV fails at home, will you allow the service engineer to enter the house? Will you, for example, go to a restaurant? Will you easily go shopping the way you used to? And will you travel in a taxi, Uber, or Ola? Those are all the questions that are all staring at us as we look at this environment. Now, the new normal is going to be a low-touch way of working. So you'll have to adopt new habits, new regulations, travel restrictions, and also hygiene restrictions. So this will need new skills as technology will pervade the whole system. And as borders will be closed or opened very carefully, all countries will need to look at supply chains more widely distributed. Till now, everybody had pretty much one source, and that was China. So India is already changing, and we've seen that from the announcements made by the Prime Minister, where we are really started talking about local, but with being part of a global supply chain. But that supply chain must essentially include India, which it did not till now. So those people working in industries that are in severe downturn will have to move to another domain. So reskilling will be needed. And so the reskilling training, business will also scale, and you will see a huge spike there. Healthcare and wellness will lead the growth, and maybe pharma. But new skills are needed to use technology and be contactless. Telemedicine, for example, will finally happen. It's being talked about for many years. And doctors and new professionals at the rural end will be needed to support this. So we need to skill those people to actually create a new model of delivering medical services. Lots of jobs will be lost. So all aspirants will have to skill up and then compete for scarce jobs. Okay, so companies will reduce, as a matter of fact, full-time jobs and move to freelancers and contract people. And this so-called gig economy will definitely come into being. Now, in this gig economy, what do you really need to do? You need to create skills by selling yourself and building a business around you as a person. So in a manner, new skills are needed, and you need to be in a manner like a micro entrepreneur, running your own business single-handedly. Very tough time ahead for new job entrants also. What will be needed is to add more skills to your portfolio if you want to enter the job market. And a lot of learning and skilling will be required through online sources. And you'll have to be more job ready than ever before. You have to add skills like communications, great capability for doing video interviews, online tests, and you need to learn and skill up to knowing more global languages. Because if you want to be that part of that global supply chain, you need to know some languages too. So if you come with some of these additional skills, you may have a better chance to get a new job. As manufacturing moves from China, we will need new skills. And electronics actually will benefit a lot, because electronics is huge in China. And secondly, electronics in India has got priority. And a lot of new benefits have been given by the government for electronics. So as a result, you will see that you will need to have newer skills as we move forward. The main skill that will change and will have to be adopted by many people will be design-led manufacturing. And if we just do manufacturing, we will have lower value added. But if you do design-led manufacturing, you'll have higher value added. So I think that's really the major change I feel will happen. And also, Industry 4.0 will be needed. Now, what does that mean for people who are normal manufacturing engineers? How do they get to those skills that are needed for Industry 4.0? And what new skills are needed is a lot of IT. So you will need to understand data analytics, big data, robotics and automation, AI, IoT, and process digitization across all the business value chain. So these are new skills that will be required. And therefore, we have to gear ourselves up for these new skills in manufacturing. As I feel more and more automation will happen in the country. And as movements will be restricted, it will lead to collaborative design and development. across borders and across internationally also. So new skills will be needed, like using virtual reality. And for example, one of the startups that I have been mentoring, they've actually created this whole model of architects working from anywhere in the world to be able to collaboratively work with a particular software toolkit. And that way they can work together. So this collaborative working with virtual reality will become something that will come up in a big way. And so therefore you need new skills on how to operate and learn these new skills of virtual reality. Now, of course, many similar things are likely to happen. And I don't want to give a very, very long lecture. I'll give a pretty short lecture because I feel that what I want to say can be said in a few words and some important issues. So development institutions also will need to adapt to this new reality. And money will be scarce. I am involved with 2 development institutions, Population Foundation and Save Life Foundation. And what we are finding is that we were actually working on trying to get funding from a lot of public sector units. And suddenly, all of it has come to a standstill. And then we discovered that the reason for it is that all public sectors are actually contributing in a very big way to PM Cares. So if they're giving a lot of their funding to PM Cares from their CSR funding, we are unlikely to get very much out of there. Therefore, the only 2 options that will be available for funding will be, first, private organizations who have large CSR funding. But you have to watch out there also. A lot of them give funding in areas that they have already decided. So if their CSR committee has already decided that they're going to invest in women empowerment, or they're going to invest in education, or they're going to invest in rural, that's where their monies will go. So I think you will have to find the right private organizations who are working in the domain that you are in. And one key thing will be that one thing we've noticed that the FCRA types of donation monies are not stopping. As a matter of fact, some of them have told us in PFI, for example, is that please don't fire anybody. We want all of them to stay and we want to continue supporting you. So that's good news. So I think that's something that's very positive. Now, if we want to work in rural areas, we need new skills. And we need to learn how to do contactless working and technology-based working. So you need to really learn how to not go to a particular place, but work remotely and also communicate remotely. So if you have to communicate remotely, you need to learn skills like working on multimedia. Multimedia, for example, I mean, you need to work on many areas using, for example, TV, community radio, phones, voice-based response systems, multilingual chatbots. Those are the kind of things that you will need to learn to do. And therefore, these are completely new skills. Fortunately, for example, in Population Foundation, we've actually been adopting a lot of these technologies for a long time because I have been actually pushing them ahead of time and saying that please go after very high use of technology so that it'll get you much further. And therefore, they actually came up with this whole program of Main Kuch Bhi Kar Sakti Hoon. And some of you must have seen it. Inside that, we have all these multimedia platforms that we are using. And we've just started a chatbot about a year ago. And that is in English. And that we are going to convert soon to multilingual. So those are the kind of new skills of communications that the development institutions will have to learn and get their people to learn. There has been a huge impact of COVID on the innovation engine. And that's a very interesting area, since I'm very deeply involved with startups. Here, government, academia, startups have worked together in the last 40 days to create an absolutely amazing products. Okay, and this is something that we can be very proud of in India. So, for example, I've been working on a project to create a ventilator with IIT Kanpur, and we did that in flat 5 weeks, and it's now going into manufacturing. Similarly, I have another startup whom I'm working with in IIT Delhi, where IIT Delhi government, all of us came together to actually carry forward. So anyway, I like to end up here by saying that a new model of skills will be needed, which is more emotional intelligence, digital literacy, creativity, self-study skills, ecological mindset, attention management, and concentration and awareness, because you will be overloaded with information. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for the keynote address on skilling for the future. Your insights were very helpful, and all of us learned a lot from it on how to prepare ourselves better for the future. Thank you so much for taking time and coming to Charcha 2020 with us. Thank you so much for your talk, sir.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. Let us now proceed to the next part of our session, which is a panel discussion on innovative ideas to transform implementation strategies across the skilling value chain and the role of upskilling, reskilling, and alternate skilling. It is my pleasure to introduce the panelists and the moderator for today's session. So in the panelists, we have Mr. Ketan Deshpande, who is the founder and CEO of Fuel, which is Friends Union for Energizing Lives. Ketan Deshpande is an Ashoka Fellow. He is an MBA from Symbiosis International University and is a research fellow to Judge Business School. Hello, sorry. Sorry. I think there was some technical error. Yeah, I'm back. So as I was saying, Mr. Ketan Deshpande is an MBA from Symbiosis International University and is a research fellow to Judge Business School, University of Cambridge, UK. Fuel works with large corporate partners in areas of future skills and education and has cumulative outreach of 1 million youth under various CSR. Our other panelist is Mr. Ravi Tenety, who is the CEO of Quest Scott Training and Skilling. Mr. Ravi has been associated with Quest since 2018 and comes with more than 25 years of experience across various industries, including manufacturing, retail, internet, and telecommunications. We have another panelist called Mr. Tarun Giridhar, who is the Chief Revenue Officer for Mercer Metal. For Chief Revenue Officer for Metal. Mr. Tarun has been working for Metal for the past 3 years and is a business leader with strong experience across internet, technology, education skills, and retail industry. Joining us as another panelist is Shilpa Bhutani, who is the founder of Capacita Connect. From being an economics professor to an entrepreneur, Shilpa has helped more than 20,000 people upskill in the short duration through her Jaipur-based skill development startup. At present, she has more than 40 skill centers across the country and is also a training partner of NSDC. Our last panelist is Ms. Anita Rajan, who is the Chief Operating Officer at Tata Stripe. Anita was deeply involved with the Indian national skilling ecosystem during its formative years, having worked with the advisor to Prime Minister on skill development as his Chief of Staff and later with the Chairman, National Skill Development Corporation. Anita has over 25 years of diverse experience in the education and management sectors. It's my pleasure to introduce the moderator for this panel discussion, who is Basab Banerjee, the co-founder of Magic Billion. Basab is a TVET expert, leadership coach, and team building facilitator with more than 3 decades of diverse experiences in armed forces, SEM, operations, telecom, ITES, retail, and public-private partnerships. Prior to founding Magic Billion, Basab was working as an expert on global talent mobility with the Ministry of Skill Development, Government of India, and National Skill Development Corporation in 2017. It's a pleasure to have you all with us today for this panel discussion. Thank you so much. Over to the moderator now, proceeding with the panel discussion.
Check. Welcome, panelists and viewers. This is the first panel discussion on skilling, and you've got much more coming your way. And I'm sure the skill providers or the skill development ecosystem players who are watching this webinar, as well as the youth who are interested in the skilling ecosystem, are going to benefit a lot from various panel discussions that take place. We are conscious of the challenges that COVID has posed for all of us in the system, and you heard the Honorable Secretary, Minister of Skill Development, Shri Praveen Kumar, talk about how we should be focused on the demographics when we are planning the new skill ecosystem. And then, of course, Ajay Chaudhary gave a very good talk, and he talked about reskilling and upskilling, looking at various sectors, and those are areas which our expert or a super expert panel is going to expound on. So as Medha explained, I run this company called Magic Billion. And so we are a niche company. We are a 360-degree global talent management company, and we are in the business of selling the magic of 1 billion Indians to global clients. And so we'll talk more about what are the global trends in skilling, which can be some lessons for the Indian skill ecosystem as it grows out of COVID. So what we will do in terms of pacing this session is we will allow the panelists to make some opening remarks, and then we will start off with a question and answer session. You got your chat box with you, Q&A written on your screen. You can ask questions, and we will take those questions which are of contemporary interest and shoot it to the panelists. So let's start with Ketan.
Thank you, Basam, for this opportunity. And thank you, Charcha, for organizing this wonderful panel. In my opening remarks, I belong to an organization called Fuel, which works in the area of future skills and works in the area of providing career counseling and guidance to the youth of India. In my decade of experience, the two emphasis which I would like to speak upon is one on mobilization and the other on the funding areas of job opportunities. The innovation which we have done in mobilization is partnering with government ecosystem partners like All India Council for Technical Education, partnering with Niti Aayog and Prabhari officers in aspirational districts of India, and doing innovative models of championship where students are not ready to take the skilling courses directly. So can we create a championship which penetrates them and helps them to become champions and thereby increase the participation in the skilling programs? We also have partnered with organizations like NASSCOM, where we utilize their platforms of future skills and connect the youth to the right opportunities, not only on the domain skills, but also on professional and personality development skills. So the point in which I would like to make to all in the introduction is we need to devise innovative methodologies to attract youth to take skilling programs, make them aspirational towards the skilling programs, thereby enable them to take the right opportunities. A 4-year degree course can lead them to a job, or a training program of some certain number of hours will lead them to an effective job. We need to clear that, and that's my opening remark. Thank you, Basar.
Thanks, Ketan. Very powerful, and we will explore a little more as we go along in the panel discussion. Over to Ravi Teneti from QuestCorp.
Thank you, Basab, and thank you, Charcha, for this wonderful occasion to talk about skilling. I think it is the flavor of the season today, and it's very contextual that we discuss this on the cusp of the next changes that are going to hit the market. So XLS is a part of the Quest group, where we are the largest private employer in the country. We employ about 4 lakh people. And XLS does the training and skilling for the rural youth. We train about 1 lakh of rural youth every year in our own centers, about 120 centers. And we are the champion employer with the Ministry of Rural Development, and we're also the funded partner of NSDC. So we have been running these programs for the last 5 to 6 years now, and today we really are reimagining our role in the ecosystem. The conditions that have brought about the way skilling as an execution is done, I think we need to reimagine the complete life cycle of a candidate. So even as we pass through the pandemic and the disruption that it has caused, we already see the changes that are happening quickly all around me, right? So one of the biggest changes that has happened is the government has proactively come and asked us to do online training for our candidates. And remember, these are the rural youth. Some couple of years back, probably there would be black spots of network. But today, almost everybody carries tabs, and in places like Raebareli and Lalitpur and Firoz and Fatehpur, the internet connectivity is almost 67 to 70%, right? So it is the right time to straddle the online training model and maybe make it less stressful for the candidate to suddenly migrate from a trainer-led to online. But however, the journey has started. The second thing that was seen is that the industry, the way it has, it has seen the situation and the way it has it's evolving, right? They're ready for online interviews for rural youth who we train. They're ready to give appointment letters on the fly, on the online, right? And they're even okay if the candidate does not have practical experience, they're okay to take them on board and give them the practical experience that is required. That is on the industry side. And the third side is the trainee side, right, where the maximum amount of change is happening. The trainees were migrating on a distressed level earlier, right, for the minimum wages that each state would give. But today, the same candidates are now asking us to give them placement locally, right, where the industry is more meshed with the kind of economy that the district carries. So the labor aspirations are also becoming much more local. So interesting times, and we are happy to be where we are, being part of the change engine. Thank you.
Thank you, Ravi. The opening remarks of Tarun Girdhar from Metal. Tarun, yeah.
Sorry, I was on mute. Thank you, Basab, and thank you, Team Charcha, for setting this up. I think the timing is great. We're going through an unprecedented change, and it's great that we're discussing this right now. I think I work for Mercer Metal. We are a tech-enabled assessment company. We are working with close to 3,000 companies across 90 plus countries, and we're a 100% online assessment company. The business that we are into is to certify right people for right jobs, or to certify people who have acquired right skill set to be certified in that particular job. We've been part of skill ecosystem for past 6 years. And like other sectors, I think there's a lot of transition happening in skill space as well. Talking about training to begin with, I think a lot of upskilling and a lot of reskilling would happen. And as Teneti mentioned before me, I think a lot of this training would have to be delivered online and in a blended mode. And when we talk about reskilling, we talk about upskilling, we a lot of times talk about the hard skills. While these are important, and going forward, technology, digital skills will play a very definitive and key role in every profession. I think soft skills are also very important. For example, given the changes that we are going through, adaptability becomes a massive point, a massive area of skilling. Team management. I mean, while we're used to managing our team, in an office scenario, how do we work with our teams in a new scenario where half the teams are working remotely? So these are some areas where some changes need to happen. While we are going through changes, I think it also an opportunity for a lot of businesses and governments. For example, Government of India announced the land reforms, which were pending for and were a problematic area for any government to get into for many years. But it gave them an opportunity. A lot of state governments have come out with the land reforms. So this period has given us opportunity to act fast, to adopt technology. I think we'll see a lot of automation happening. And in terms of opportunity, for example, I think the US government allowed green card for foreign-based doctors and nurses. I think that's another opportunity that has come up, and India being in its best phase of the largest chunk of population is in its youth, we should be able to become a good or a strong supply side for healthcare workers. I think Basab's company is already doing a fantastic job there, and there's a lot of learning we all can have from there. Talking specifically about assessments, as we speak, I think there's a lot of work happening in skill ecosystem. NSDC is powering it, and a lot of discussions are happening how we can move assessments online. I think a lot of capabilities there. There are some assessments that can move online completely as of yesterday, but I think there is some discussion, some planning that needs to be done to cater to certain sectors where we could build in more online assessments, whether it's through simulations or using AR, VR, or other technologies. I think that's all from my side.
Thanks, Tarun. You can see the diversity of the panelists and the kind of expertise they bring to the screen. Now, let's have Shipra Bhutani from Capacita Connect. I think you need to unmute.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Shipra Sharma Bhutani, founder and the CEO of Capacita Connect. Capacita Connect is a digital aggregator for Indian skill ecosystem. We are collecting data directly from NSDC, from state skill mission, sector skill councils, and then with the help of artificial intelligence, data analytics, skill and job role mapping, we are providing the same people to industry, that is third party recruitment, placement agencies and job portals, and even we are helping colleges for the mobilizations. So as we can see, looking at the current situation, becoming digital is the only solution for whatever we can do. That's why we have come up with the solution of online assessment, online learning, as well as online placement for candidates. Capacita Connect has the feature of giving in, video interviews. I'll give you a very interesting example. Recently, 70 people from Bihar have gone to Patanjali, Uttarakhand, and there was no interview, there was nothing. It was like on the video interview was done and they were selected and they just boarded the train. So this is just a glimpse of what the future will be when it comes to placements, assessments, trainings, and as well as the, how the interviews should be taken care of. My suggestion or my recommendation also comes for the funding part. Mostly, I would request the state skill missions and the Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship that they should provide some sort of loans or grants to their affiliated training partners. Because what is happening, the payment cycle is very, very long as per, say, the training partners. And when it comes to skilling, most of 50% of the skilling is being done on the grant base. So what about the fee-based skill trainings? For the fee-based, there should be loans for the students as well as some working capital loan for the training partners. So this is my opening remark, and I see the future lies becoming digital, becoming using as much possible artificial intelligence, data analytics, video conferencing, and as well as most importantly, I would suggest that about the National Skills Qualification Pact. NSQF should be now aligned to international qualification packs. For example, why can't we have NSQF level which is equivalent to AQF, that is Australian Qualification Pack? This will help in reducing the time frame when the student goes abroad, because this will be accepted by others. So this is what my recommendation are, and this is what we are doing. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Shipra. And we will discuss the NSQF more during our discussion. We've saved the best for the last. Over to Anita Rajan from Tata Strive. Anita.
Yeah, thank you, Basab. Can I be heard?
Yes, but you can't be seen.
Yeah, I can't control that. Someone out there has to enable my video. I can't seem to put myself on.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep, it's done.
Okay. All right. Great. Good afternoon, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here today. Thank you, Basab. It's great to see you after so long. So I'm Anita Rajan. I'm the CEO of Tata Strive. And just for everyone's information, we are a not-for-profit organization started by the Tatas in 2014. And we specialize in supporting those who are at most risks, which are dropouts, socially disadvantaged students. And we help them get either a job or become an entrepreneur, or we help start community enterprises. That's how we measure ourselves on our outcome. Some of the areas which we take pride in talking about is our very industry integrated model. For instance, some of our centers are within Taj Hotels and Volta's premises, and this enables in our experience, a great model to build industry connect across the value chain, whether it's impromptu employee volunteer sessions or faculty interactions, etc. So that industry integrated model is something that we greatly propagate. We also have a technology platform where across the value chain, right from the time the student is mobilized and connected with is on our platform, we have apps which help our mobilizers, faculty, placement partners to keep the information on our platform. And what that does for us is makes us as a data-driven, decision-based organization. So at any given time, our certificates which our students take have the entire history of the student, which can be scanned by the employer, and their history can be downloaded. The other thing that we do specialize in is our instructional design frameworks, which today is coming really very helpful because we are currently in the process of a huge reinvention of ourselves. I think the COVID situation has given all of us a big jolt, and we are working on reinventing Strive 2.0 based on two key pillars: agility and blended learning. I think in this time of challenge, when we have information asymmetry, lack of uncertainty, we don't know which way the winds are blowing, the sands are shifting. I think information is key, and agility to respond very quickly will be very important. And as everybody else has said on this platform, blended learning will be the way. In fact, the slogan that I've been encouraging my team to say is mobile is your new school. We have to tell our students that your mobile is the new school, and adopt it, embrace it. I'd just like to talk about 2 or 3 things which I think COVID has taught us very quickly. One is, I think livelihoods is going to become key. We are currently battling lives, but from lives to livelihoods is going to be a big, big shift. And I think what that means is local will become very, very important. Local jobs, local entrepreneurship, whether it's agri or allied or just to serve. Luckily, we are a huge population. Our own domestic demands can provide enough jobs for services that have not been met. The other very clear indicator COVID has given us is the push to education technologies, to learning technologies. And this is going to be an irreversible trend in my mind. What would have taken 5 or 6 or 10 years for us to educate our people or to bring them changed mindsets is happening in 40 days. Because people are adapted and adopted these technologies very well. But that means one important shift in my mind, and that is the shift towards ownership of learning to the learner. So far, we've had faculty giving information and faculty driving it. I think the online scenario now shifts the onus partially also to the owner, which is great. The student now has to take a lot of ownership for their learning, which has its challenges, which we will talk about as we go along, of course. So we don't know when the student is learning, when he is not. It's not possible to track like we can in a classroom. The other repercussion of all of this is the role of the faculty. We find that the people who are great in the class are not necessarily the great online teachers. So the role of the faculty and the training of the faculty is important. So I think technologies and digitization is here to stay, and everything and anything with technology will be most welcome. Finally, on COVID has also taught us that countries are going to insulate themselves. I think deglobalization will increase, so will India's move. I think we will try to become self-reliant. The Prime Minister said so in his speech yesterday. So there will be new sectors. I don't know, manufacturing of healthcare equipment, as Ajay Chaudhary was saying, more new sectors that might open up, new skill sets that will open up. And therefore, that agility part of our pillar that we have adopted is extremely important. And currently, as we speak, all our teams are going out, speaking to people, talking and finding out what those trends are. I'd be very happy to share some of that on this forum, Basab.
Okay, thanks a lot. So it'll help all the panelists and timekeeping if we keep our answer short. There are many questions which I'm seeing is coming over Q&A. There are already 26 questions and very interesting questions. So I'll request the panelists to be very brief. And if you want to expound on something, then maybe we will look for time at the end. But just to get the ball rolling on question and answers, we want to start with the big picture and new norm post-COVID. Everybody is talking revolutionary changes. That's what Tarun was talking about, land reform, labor reforms, everything. In the skill development space, suggest 2 or 3 revolutionary changes which can really put speed onto the system. Tarun, we start with you.
I think, sure, Basab, I think skill ecosystem itself is undergoing a lot of changes. I think one major change that needs to happen is, adoption of technology in a big way. I think that's every panelist spoke about. I think we don't need to be, dependent upon brick and mortar centers to learn and to deliver training. I think major part of it can happen online. And,
so Tarun, on this point,
yeah,
give an example of a big change that technology can bring about. Be very, very specific because you're from a tech firm.
Yeah. So for one example is, something like a live classroom. I think some of the larger educational institutes are adopting it. Why can't a training partner adopt a live classroom where, a trainer is sitting in a classroom with all the equipments, and students are getting trained on all the equipments remotely sitting there at their home. So that's one. And there are people in India, there are startups in India who are doing fantastic work in that space. So that's one. Second area where I think the change needs to happen is there has to be much bigger focus on giving real life skills to people apart from just technical skills. Looking at what Anita mentioned about agility. That's one. Second is adaptability, or the basic learnability of a candidate. And another is digital and entrepreneurship. I mean, I don't think there are more jobs happening anytime soon. So you need to equip people with these skills to become self-reliant.
Yeah. 2 revolutionary changes: try and wrap tech everywhere and change the curriculum, include life skills. Okay, Shipra. 2 massive big rock changes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, please.
Okay. So the first of all, when it comes to skilling, we are talking to scattered, diversified interiors of rural part of India. So live classes will be a problem at most of the times. I would suggest pre-recorded lessons or pre-recorded lectures, so which can be downloaded in a form of a pen drive or a CD. So whenever the person is having time, he can go through it and he can study. Second could be, why can't we make the mobile as a learning part of it? Because no matter how illiterate the person is, even a truck driver is hooked to the mobile for most of the time. So instead, just like Byju's, why can't we have all the chapters, everything available on the mobile, this thing? The third will be, most importantly, will be the way the recruitment is being done. So instead of all the, why can't we have a video recording of the skill? For example, a CNC operator, when he is doing the work functioning on the CNC, let's make a video record, and that is his resume, that is his profile, which can be sent to the prospective employer. So these are the revolutionary things.
Thanks, Shipra. Ravi.
Yes, Basar. Yes, doctor.
You're the guy with a deep penetration into the real India, Bharat. And so I see most of the questions are coming on how this will integrate to the last mile. So your thoughts, some big changes which you feel can impact.
Yeah, so give me 2 minutes to spend time on this. See, one is the local level changes that we observe. Okay, so with the reverse migration that has happened, what we are seeing is that the demand is much more localized, and the industry needs to be following the labor, right, and not vice versa. The labor is not following the industry. So what this has created is that the skills are going to become much more specific to the sector, right, which is going to create capital in that particular geography, right? And the geography could be as small as a district, right? So the capital formation will be basis not only the availability of land and raw material, but also on the availability of the skill there. Okay, so that skill could be either a reskilling or an existing skilling of the reverse migration that has happened. Okay, so one large change that we are watching, what we are seeing, is the industry now being in step with skill rather than all skills, any skill will do kind, right? So specificity of skill, that's number one. And number two that we see is that the premium on skill. Okay, so as the skill becomes more specific and sectoral, there is a equity that the candidate builds up as he works in that sector and that specific industry, right? So his ability to go on a career migration is now much higher than the limiting factor of a minimum wages for any skill. These two things we are watching very clearly.
Okay, thanks. Ketan, 2 dream changes in the skill ecosystem that you would want to suggest in the new normal.
So one thing which I wanted to suggest was on the online university of skills. I think give the degrees or give the qualification degrees online now, considering all this. This has been a demand from many years that recognize online education. I think this is the time for the government to think to recognize online education, formal education system. And the second one is mass creation of content and make it available to open source so that people can use it. Allow companies to create content and penetrate to all the youth of the nation. I think those are the 2 changes which I would like to suggest.
Okay. So, Ketan, just keep the mic with you. If you were the Prime Minister of this nation, for Skill India, what is one big change you would suggest?
I think I would make essential every student to go through the skilling ecosystem and get one qualification pack recognized under his skilling, whether he's a degree holder or whether he's an undergrad. Get that one skill and register yourself for that qualification.
Anita, 2 big changes that you would suggest. Thank you, Ketan.
One, I want every youth in India above 18 to have a mobile in their hand. If they can't afford it, a smartphone, the government should give it. That's my dream. The second thing is I want every young person in India above age of 18 to mandatorily do an internship. Make it part of the policy. It should be mandatory. They have to have a connect with the real working world. And the third thing, if I may be greedy and ask, I want every district collector to create in their district a list of the services that the community needs to live a decent life, which can be met by themselves. At the moment, we don't know what are the unmet services that entrepreneurs can spring up and serve. I think if we do these 3 things, I'll be very happy. Okay,
great. I think the panelists have given a wish list. The Honorable Secretary a while ago was suggesting that, out of Charcha 2020 skill development, if we get a roadmap, that'll be good. Panelists have suggested, and I can see a whole lot of question answers from people. So let me take a couple of questions and shoot it to your panel. Sayantan Chaudhary has asked a question. What's your take on upskilling dropout teenagers, in particular those who observed childcare closely in siblings? Well, it's a big question. So really speaking, dropout teenagers who are dropping out from the school system, what is the way in which we can include them in the skilling ecosystem? Ravi, are you going for it?
Yes, certainly. I mean, a part of the government programs are actually aligned to facilitate the school dropouts and bring them back into the vocational streamline, right? But over and above that, I think what is very critical now is that, you know, we also while the outcomes are very broad based, right, in terms of, you know, how much percentage of placement has happened, you know, how many students have enrolled and all that. I think we need to now get into the next level of granularity where we need to see how much is the candidate actually absorbing, because we are now trying to make skill specialists and not general skill people, right? Skilled people. We are trying to create skill specialists because it's now much more localized and much more specific. So in that case, I think the way we deliver our content and the trainer's capability should be more towards, more towards pedagogy and, you know, more towards andragogy, right, where the candidates are treated like adults, and it should be more activity based and less classroom based.
So you're suggesting a paradigm shift in the way we run our train the trainer modules.
Absolutely.
Today it is mostly to do with the technical aspects of the qualification pack, but what you're suggesting is a people pack where
Absolutely.
the instructional methods are better defined. Good. So we have V. Muruhar and anonymous attendee 2 are asking questions related to technology. So I will bundle the questions together. Question 1A, technology, how will it support agriculture in India, as it depends on weather and rainfall? So I suppose what he means is how will it support agriculture training? And the other person is asking how technology will cope with lack of electricity and lack of internet even in 66% of our schools. So how does it do an outreach to agriculture, and how does it cope with lack of electricity and internet? Who'll go for this? Tarun?
Yeah, Basab. So, you know, answering the first question, technology in agriculture, I think it's at two levels. One is at the time of input, how technology can support, and if someone is trained to use technology effectively, is to plan the sowing accordingly, what fertilizers, what point of time of the year is right, given the weather conditions, and access to, right quality seeds, better rates. I mean, these are the things which can be leveraged through technology at the time of, entry, at the time of the entry. While post, the product is ready, I think access to market, access to right prices is an important factor. For example, there was this video which was, of an incident that was happening in China while COVID was happening. The farmers there had access to consumers directly, and they could use technology to leverage that, which gave them a decent livelihood and has established a new model of sourcing and delivering, in future. So these are some thoughts on agriculture and overall technology. I think with geo happening and with, I think 2G, 3G available at most locations, barring some areas in Jammu Kashmir and Northeast, I think we are seeing, and I say that because we did close to 12 million assessments last year, and out of which I think 8 to 9 million were in rural location, and these were online video proctored assessments. So we could do these kind of assessments from the remotest of locations. So my take there is, while yes, there are areas where it will be a complete blackout in terms of technology, internet, and electricity. But I think the way the government is going and the way the private funding is coming, especially in areas of internet and technology, I think we are doing a good job there. And I think availability might not be a challenge going forward.
So I see a lot of questions coming from participants on technology in skilling. And since most of the panelists have suggested technology as one of the big differentiators in skilling 2.0 or skilling post-COVID, let me throw the other question. Let me read it out. Skilling is all about practice, practice, and practice. And that's a fact. Are we not putting too much emphasis on technology? How will a training center take the practical lab of, say, automobile repair to the trainee online? Now we need a factual answer. Any of the panelists would like to respond to this? How will this blended learning happen? How will technology gradually? Now let's take this case of automotive repair. How do you visualize some sessions happening?
So
Tarun,
I can come in.
Yeah, go ahead, Anita. Go ahead.
Let's have Anita going.
Go ahead, Tarun.
No, Anita, you go, and then we'll have Tarun again.
Okay, so I think the technology has to be understood and used in the best way that it serves. So clearly, hands-on practice is important, but it doesn't have to happen at your center. People don't have to travel. Students sitting on the outskirts of Aligarh doesn't have to come to my Aligarh center where the labs are. So we have launched a digital model which enables that person, if it's a community service center, he or she can do his theory there. If there is an automobile repair entrepreneur who's actually running a shop, there are methods to tie up the practice sessions with that individual, which can be facilitated. A video of the person training over there can be submitted as an assessment, which can be viewed remotely by an assessor sitting in another place, and an assessment can be done. And he or she can intern in the local place where he practiced. So I think it's a very highly collaborative model that's required, but you have to leverage technology where it serves the purpose. Today we do online assessments where we have cameras which are installed in each of our assessment rooms, where there is an observer sitting in a third location who's observing the online assessment done by students, completely immediate results. Within half an hour, the results are out. So we have to use technology judiciously. It certainly cannot replace everything. That's the reality.
Right. So I think, Anita, you've kind of summed up what most people in the panel would also say. But now the question that comes is, we have got a set of curriculums based on qualification packs, which are driven either by instructor-led learning, or they are driven by maybe some semi-blended learning. Now, how do the whole mass of 3,600 skill providers who subscribe to the PMKVY, how do they all get access to this kind of online learning? Ketan, would you want to take a shot to that?
I think again the question is about mobile penetration. I think the more number of mobiles you have and the access would be available will be the one. And the second point, which is, of course, it is blended learning. So immediate reducing the dependency of the facilitator, immediately reducing the dependency on the teacher is not going to happen. We are going to use a constructive approach where additional knowledge could be achieved by this, but you need to have the interaction. You can't substitute the interaction. Maybe you have to use it technologically, but you will need a teacher at the end of the day.
Okay. So how do we amend the curriculum, courseware? How do we tell the skill provider that, this is the part that you will do offline, this is the part you will do online, this is how it will do online? How will the trainer be trained? How will we start course after course after course after course? How do we do this? Ravi?
See, there's not an immediate solution available at this point, but for example, there are, I'm just lack of any other referral, I'm giving my own, right? We have a learning management system, okay, which can scale up to 4 lakh sessions at a time, right? Now, what can be done is that that is only a platform, right? However, I think the one thing that we are losing sight of in the skilling ecosystem is that we are not replicating the best practices of each other, right? A lot of content can be, the best content from each provider could be hosted there. Maybe, it could come under the aegis of an NSDC who would be like the owner of the platform, right? And as the industry and the candidates start participating in the system, right, it will only enrich itself.
So a centralized system of collating all this kind of blended learning from partner A and then broadcasting it to the system.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Right. So I'm sure Tarun you will also have some answers. So a brief shot at this.
No, I think Ravi captured it very correctly. I think there is no correct answer right now, but there is a reset that is required immediately, where a lot of training or pedagogy which was instructor led has to be made blended, and there are a lot of islands of excellence where already a lot of content is available in different languages. It's just that someone needs to connect that, and I think NSDC as a nodal agency is best placed to connect that, and maybe bring it under one umbrella, make it more efficient and cost effective, and then just relate out to the skill ecosystem.
Okay, great. Now, Shipra, there is a question which is right up your street. Ank India has asked, how to mobilize youth for skilling post-COVID?
Sir, I think, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Sir, most importantly, the best way to mobilize after post-COVID is why can't we have a mobilization van which we can run in the local areas, where collecting the database of the school dropouts or anybody from 15 years of age up to 35 years of age. Last year, NSDC did an amazing project called Skill Sathi, where they mobilized some 25 lakh people pan-India. And I would recommend if that data can be provided to the training partners, because I myself was a participant of one of that projects, and we conducted the project in 5 states. Mobilization is one of the biggest challenge. And
Right.
Surprisingly, the entire focus of skills ecosystem has been only on trainings. The placements and mobilizations are the 2 parameters which others not have been focused on.
So you're saying take mobilization down to the villages. Any other
Yes.
suggestions? Any other suggestions?
Visits to the meeting the sarpanches, meeting the Jila Pramukhs, going to the schools and colleges, conducting the awareness campaign, just like a polio. You need to conduct an awareness campaign pan-India. What are the benefits of skill ecosystem? People are not even aware.
Okay.
Everybody thinks skilling is about plumbing, electrician. There are future of skills, web designing, cloud computing, ethical hacking, which are very much in, and lot of young youth want to do it.
Right.
So
Right.
Basab, just if I can just pitch in for a second here on a somewhat unusual solution. So I think the one who's really worried most about an unemployed kid is the parent.
Right.
Let us give the parents a role in this. What if we ask as a nation, the government does this, that there is this, and that can be done through WhatsApp or through a mobile connectivity. If you want your child is sitting at home, unemployed, wants to get skilled, just call us or give these details here. A parent is the most concerned, right? And no, it should be the onus is on the parent to inform, and the parent will, because he or she is concerned. So it has to be the person to whom it hurts most. Yes. And it has to be on the onus of them, because the government reaching out or finding out is not working. So why don't we do a flipped work method here?
So you said 2 things. One, even Shipra said the same thing, that there needs to be some organizational push behind mobilization. So whether it's government, state government, district, block level officials, whoever, and something using technology like WhatsApp to reach to the last mile. Ravi.
And the third one is to the parents. I'm saying so far we are not involving the parents.
Very
I
important.
think that's the important one.
Yeah. Ravi.
Yes, sir.
On mobilization, what new ways can the skill providers use? Because everybody is now got used to sitting at home in COVID. How can we mobilize people?
Yeah, I mean, again, the much abused technology, I think it would come into some level of play here also. One of the things that we have just done a POC with is using cloud telephony, right? So what we do is that from the Gram Panchayat, we take the database of the mobile numbers of all the unemployed youth, and like Anita said, we also take the numbers of the parents.
Oh.
Right? And then what we do is that we have created an IVR, okay, and there's a call out, right, which says if you want to get skilled, press 1, right, and once he presses 1, maybe he could go into the next level as to whether he wants to get trained in retail, And if he wants to get trained in retail, then which center would he like to get trained in, right? And we can go down the tree of choices. But in that one interaction with the candidate, we are doing a couple of filterings. One filtering is the candidate's actual interest to do a job, number one, right? And at the same time, we're also removing the physical contact of collecting all the documents and data and all that kind of things. So we are actually doing a social distancing, on technology, and also getting the candidate who is interested in the job.
Great. So
right?
is this tool available to other skill providers who would be interested? Would you want to demonstrate this maybe a couple of months later at NSDC, this whole process?
Very happy to do that. Extremely happy. But the only thing is that the scale may not be as much as an LMS platform that can do multiple trainings.
Right.
But I can demonstrate the POC definitely to anyone. Yeah.
Wonderful. Now we are on a time check. We are told that there are only 6 minutes left. So we will take one more question, and I can see out of the 61 questions, a large number of questions people are asking, and maybe they are all skill providers and others. The question that they're asking is, what are those job roles on which trainings should happen now? What is your understanding?
So future of skills, I suppose. Future of skills.
Go ahead. But we have to be very brief. Let's do just 1 minute responses. What skills?
Cloud computing, ethical hacking, web designing, data mining. These are the courses. Mobile repair, CNC operator, solar panel installation. These are the courses which are upcoming and they're very much in demand.
Okay, so what is the source of your information? If you could just tell the audience.
Capacita collect all the demand from CII, FICCI, TIE, and also from sector skill councils. These demands have been given to me by various sector skill councils.
Are they on your website?
Yes, these
Can you upload them? Can you upload these? Because that's very important. You've got it from the demand side, and that's the right thing to do. And we would want you to please tell us on your website whether these can be made available or not.
Yes, sir. For example, 2 lakh mobile repairs are needed in India.
Wonderful. Great. Who would like to
I wanted to go next. Because one more point is use LinkedIn to know which kind of jobs are available for the next 6 months. What kind of jobs are getting posted on LinkedIn?
Okay.
Observe that, and it will show you digital marketing, e-commerce, some of the areas which are really coming up. So I think those are the 2 skills.
Okay. Anyone else? Tarun?
Yeah, Basab, I think I'll go back again to healthcare. I think COVID has exposed not just India, I think the developed nations.
That's a no-brainer. Yep, absolutely.
I think India could be a great, supply side resource for the world, aging Japanese and European population. There should major focus on healthcare training, major focus.
So do you feel that there should be, quickly there should be a recalibration of what kind of jobs should now push into PMKVY?
Absolutely.
And,
absolutely.
How will these be repurposed? How will the social distancing be done? So there needs to be some kind of policy debate and discussion around skills led by the ministry, led by the respective state skill missions. So there needs to be that movement towards policy strategy so that the execution can be managed well.
Absolutely.
But
I think
I am told it's time for my wrap up. So thank you very much, panelists. We went through a whole gamut of topics. And really speaking, what I'm hearing from the panelists is that at the macro level, there need to be paradigm shifts. We need to embrace technology in a very big way in the skill development arena. But at the same time, we need to be conscious, like Ravi said, that the industry needs to move where talent has now moved. So take a call on the aspiration survey of people. We discussed mobilization, and we understood that mobilization is a grave challenge. So Shipra gave some very good options, and you all suggested the last mile connect is very important, and use of technology on that. And there needs to be, again, a discovery for each chunk of skill development. For example, assessments, how can that be more technically enabled? How can the skilling itself be more technically or tech enabled? So we will have to look at tech enablement across the paradigm. And finally, the policymakers need to sit down and recalibrate where the demands are and how the training will happen. Thank you very much, panelists. We come to the end of this panel discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
Prasad.
you.
Thank
I'd
you.
like to thank all the panelists and the moderator for a learning filled session. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure to have you all with us today. Thank you. Thank you. Moving on to the next part of our event, which is an inspirational story. Moving on to the next part of our event, which is an inspirational story by Mr. Ashwath Narayan, who is India's first gold medal winner at World Skills 2019 held at Kazan, Russia. Ashwath represented the country in water technology skill competition. We are really glad to have you with us today, Mr. Ashwath. Over to you, Mr. Ashwath.
Hello all, good evening. I'm here to share my journey at World Skills competition, my journey of winning the first gold medal for India. So thank you for inviting me for the talk, first of all. So starting with how it all began from the beginning, like since I was a kid, I was always fascinated by the technology around me, and it has motivated me to think differently. And I have always been a practical learner. So this interest of mine has led me to opt engineering as my career. So I have completed my engineering in applied electronics and instrumentation. So when I was in engineering, I was always exploring what and all are the possibilities related to my core field. So I have been mostly focusing on the industrial automation as my background, being instrumentation. So I have explored what and all opportunities have come to me. But when it comes to the campaigning that has been done by the NSTC for the national competition, I have noticed that there's a big competition that's going to come up, and I have registered myself in the skill water technology because that particular skill had automation as one of the core modules, and that being the, and I was eligible to take part in that particular skill. So then after I started training for the national competition, and I had to go through a lot of other things because this skill, particularly being a multidisciplinary one, water technology has also been introduced at World Skills Kazan for the first time. That is in 2019 as an official skill. So there was minimal support of the documentation about the skill, and also I had to go through other disciplines in the skill, like chemical and biological analysis of water samples, and mechanical module wherein we had to deal with the pumps and all the pipings and fixtures in a water supply environment. So that being the case, I have done a lot of research being from a different background, and then I prepared myself for the national competition. And in the national competition, which was held in October 2018, I have won the gold medal in this particular skill. And at that point, I thought, okay, this is something that doesn't come as an opportunity for everyone, representing India at a global platform. And looking at the scale of the competition, this particular competition is termed as the Olympics of Skills, and India has been participating since 2009, and I have decided that this is something I'm going to devote my full time to, irrespective of other things. from the pressure from the academics. Being a final year student, when I won the gold medal, I had to go through a lot of academic pressure, and also the placement scenario being the case. I didn't want to do a job in IT sector, and I wanted to stick to my core. So I thought this is something which would open doors in that way. And for me, it has helped a lot. Training for World Skills terms it as training and qualifying to compete at World Skills is equal to 4 to 5 years of professional training. And that's where I thought I'll be focusing on this. And then after winning the competition, I trained for almost a year for the competition. And in the course of time, I have also visited Germany for the international bootcamp training, wherein I got to know what exactly is the scope of this skill in the competition, because there has been minimal amount of technical documentation available, because the skill was not an official skill in the previous competitions. Yeah, so in the bootcamp training, I have also got to meet other people from across the globe, and got to interact and see what are the areas where I need to improve, and that has given me a broader picture. And yeah, then after coming back to India, I started training, and by then I have graduated actually. So I had to completely leave everything apart, and I've completely focused on training for this competition. And it was almost 5 months of full-time training every day, day in, day out. So I used to train in my college. My college institute has particularly supported me to train for the competition at the Center of Excellence, which was set up in our institute itself. So I was allowed to access all the equipment, and there was a huge investment as well for my training that has been supported by my institute. So looking at different challenges that I had, for me as a student, it has always been important to look at those opportunities wherein we can enhance our knowledge basically, and try to pursue a career of our choice rather than just going about the flow. So that's where I felt that has been the driving force in the entire journey, and my family has also been a big support. And coming back to the graph of the competition, like I would like to share a screen so that I can show, if I'm allowed to do so, so that I can, excuse me.
You can go ahead, Ashwat.
Okay. Hello.
Yeah, yeah, sure. Yeah.
I'm
can-
unable to share the screen, madam.
Did you press the share screen button
Yes,
below?
yes.
Yeah.
It has been disabled.
All right. Just give me
Yeah,
one second. Yeah.
I'll carry on with the talk. And yeah, with the competition, so we reached Kazan, the entire Indian contingent. We were participating in, we were representing in 44 skills at the competition. And the entire environment was really intense with the competition, like the scale of the competition, how they were doing it. It was very intense. And
You can share now, Ashwat.
yes, I'm doing.
Yeah, Shweta, we can see your screen now.
Yeah, so with the journey map of the competition, it's basically like this. So wherein we start off with the district level competitions, and then the state level, and then the regional level, and then the nationals. And then after, again, they would be selecting one of the competitor who would be representing India at World Skills competition. So actually, this is very important to see that without the kind of intensive campaign that has been done by NSTC and WorldSkills India, it would not have been so impactful when it comes to the students like me, like to get to know about this competition. So they have conducted around some 400 plus competitions all over India before they went ahead with the Nationals India Skill 2018. So yeah, that has definitely been one of the interesting thing. So for the people to join. So this is where we won. I have won the gold medal at the national competition. And so talking about the boot camp training that happened in Germany, these are some impressions from the boot camp training, wherein it was for around 2 weeks. And then after I was training for the competition at the Center of Excellence, these are a few impressions. And this is at the competition. So it is a 4-day competition. It was about 16 hours of the test projects that we were put into. So water technology had 5 modules, and the entire competition was intense. And on day one, actually, it was really challenging. So there was kind of nervousness, and I was not completely feeling well. So I was a bit skeptical about how I'll be going, whether I'll be able to give my best or not. So my focus from day one has always been this: whether it wasn't not about winning a medal, but about delivering the best at the competition, and also enhance my knowledge in this journey. That has been the key focus. And I was a bit skeptical about whether I'm going to perform well or not. But the task one, when I have completed my first task, and I didn't look at anyone when I was doing it. And at the end of the task, I was able to realize that I was the only one in the entire competition area to complete the task successfully. So that has given me a lot of boost. It has been a booster. So then after, I didn't look back, and I just continued performing in the best possible way. So it has been an incredible experience with the competition, and got to meet people from across the globe, and also with got to meet, interact people from best in the industry who have partnered with the skill. And this has actually helped to see what and all are the challenges that we are facing with the water industry. And after the 4-day competitions, the results were declared. It was really an intense moment, and one of those moments that I would cherish my entire life. Winning the first gold medal for India, when it has been announced, the entire Indian contingent was on their feet, and everyone was really happy about this, because it has been uh, uh, quite long since we have been competing. And uh, I have also been awarded the best of nation in the competition for the best performance from the country as well. So this is one moment that I would cherish my entire life. But what has been more overwhelming is the kind of appreciation that I received after winning the medal, and coming back to the country. And people have really appreciated this, and especially the students being more keen on joining this kind of platform, or anything that is similar. But what matters is they were taking up a skill and trying to enhance their skill sets. And I have felt much happier when people came to me and told me that it has been inspiring. Your journey has inspired us to do something in the area of interest. So that has been more overwhelming. And I have also been felicitated on various occasions by the state and central government and also other organizations. So again, that has, uh, I would say it's really a proud moment to represent India at a world platform and winning for the nation. I would say that it's more than something that I can express in words. Uh,
Yeah, Shweta. I think your story was very inspiring, and I think just learning about your journey has motivated me, and I'm sure it's motivated all of our audience as well. So I just have a quick question for you.
sure.
What was your one key takeaway from your journey, and if there was one summary from this journey which really made an impact, and if there is there something that you really remember, or something that has left a lasting impression on you?
Yeah. So there are many such instances in the entire journey where things are there that I'll be remembering for a long time to come. But the most important one has been the entire learning that I have made, the knowledge that I have gained from this journey is going to stay with me. And that's the key takeaway, I would say. And whoever is competing or trying to do something uh, in any on any platform, I would say that their focus should be on not winning or losing, but it should be on enhancing the knowledge and on what they are doing. That should be the key focus, and that's when the results are also in favor of us. But forgetting about the results, the knowledge is going to stay with us. So this is the key takeaway. So,
Absolutely, absolutely. I think as long as we put in our 100%, um, we can all learn a lot. Thank you, Ashwita. Thank you so much for telling about your experiences. And it was we went along this journey with you as we were talking, and as it was very inspirational and very motivational. So thank you so much, and thank you for taking time to be a part of Charcha 2020. We're really glad that we could have you on Charcha 2020. Thank you so
it's been
much.
pleasure, and thanks a lot for inviting me for the talk. Thanks a lot for having us.
Right. So, guys, I hope all of you are still with us, and I hope you're enjoying all our segments, all our sessions until now. I know for sure that I'm having a really good time, and I'm learning a lot just by listening to all our esteemed speakers. So, moving on to our next segment, which is a very interesting segment, and I'm sure all of you will like it too. Our next segment is going to be a panel discussion, and it's going to be about emerging perspectives of funders in the backdrop of the economic crisis and the evolution of the funding landscape. I'm sure that, as all of you know, that funding is a very critical aspect, and I'm 100% sure that all of you will get to learn a lot by listening to our panelists on this topic. And as they share their insights, as they share their experiences and viewpoints, I'm sure that we will be able to gather these gems. So it is my pleasure now to introduce the panelists and the moderators for this panel discussion on emerging perspectives of funders in the backdrop of the economic crisis and the evolution of funding landscape. So our first panelist is Mr. Rahil Rangwala, who is the Director of India Programs, Michael and Susan Dell Foundation. Michael and Susan Dell Foundation. So Rahil is the director of the Family Economic Stability Team in India, and he oversees the foundation's investments in the financial inclusion and livelihood sectors. He has spent over 7 years at Bridgewater Associates, which is a global macro hedge fund, before making the transition to the developmental sector. So it's a pleasure to have you here with us, Mr. Rahul. Our second panelist for this session is Mr. Murugan V, who is the head of South Asia of the Social Innovation Group of Cisco. So Murugan is the head of Social Innovation Group of Cisco across the entire South Asia, and he also serves as a board of Common Purpose of India. Murugan is an exceptionally strong CSR leader who also has strong experience as a customer-focused business and technology leader. Thank you so much for taking time to be a part of our panel discussion. Our third panelist for the day is Mr. John Solinikov, who's the Program Director of Education of UBS Optimist Foundation. So he is a Romanian-born American-raised professional with more than 15 years of global experience in financial services, management consulting, and education. Prior to UBS, John was the founder and CEO of Teach for Romania and continues to serve as the chairman of its board. Thank you so much for joining us today, John. Our fourth panelist is Dr. Meenu Bhambhani, who is the Vice President and Head of Corporate Citizenship and Inclusion and Diversity, APAC at State Street. So Meenu has 20 years of experience in human development with specialization in social policy and has published extensively on CSR and disability inclusion. She currently heads CSR and diversity and inclusion at State Street. Our last panelist for this panel discussion is Abha Thorat, the founding member of the British Asian Trust. Abha leads social finance work across South Asia and has contributed to its design and leadership during the startup years and now to its growth. She has over 15 years of experience working on strategic programmatic solutions, tackling complex issues throughout South Asia. Her expertise and ability to leverage key cross-sector partnerships has been a crucial driver of the development of innovative social finance mechanism, heightening the trust's entrepreneurial approach to philanthropy to meet sustainable developmental goal targets. Welcome, Abha. And our moderator for this panel discussion is Ratish Balakrishnan, who is the co-founder and managing partner at Sattva. Ratish engages closely with corporations, nonprofit organizations, social enterprises, and the larger ecosystem in designing, implementing, and scaling innovative social impact solutions on the ground. He also contributes towards advocacy and policy formulation at both state and central level on education and skill development. He is a part of the faculty for the CSR certification course conducted by the Indian Institute of Corporate Affairs. And prior to Sattva, Ratish has worked for 10 years at SAP across engineering, product management, solution management, and corporate strategy. Ratish is a graduate of BITS Pilani. Thank you so much, Ratish, for joining as the moderator for this panel discussion. Over to the moderator now.
Thank you so much. And hello, everybody. There are 236 and counting people listening to all of us, and that's amazing. It's indeed great to be part of the Charcha movement in some sense and contribute whatever we know around the skill development entrepreneurship space. I want to make the best use of our time, so I want to jump right into the conversation. So the current COVID impact on skill development and entrepreneurship is fairly significant. And to understand it, you can look at it from three lenses. There is the demand lens, which is really where do skilled people go? And we now know that the industry demand for people in general, given the economic recession that everyone considers is imminent, is going to be, is going to be impacted. And there are probably some sectors that are going to be able to hire while others are not being able to hire. I think that is going to be one demand side impact of skilling. The second is the supply side impact of skilling. I mean, just the demographic of people we have to look to skill, from young people out of school to graduates to people who are retrenched from their current jobs to migrants that have come back to women that are looking to work to support their families. So there is a large scale, reimagination of the supply side of people who are looking to be skilled, which is something that is facing us as well. And lastly, there is the ecosystem level impact in the sense that there is the challenge of the mobilization, the training, the use of technology, ways in which the way skilling is in general done in a physical or a digital model, as they call it, has to be reimagined given the COVID reality as well. And all of this are questions where there are not straightforward answers. But it'd be great to get some of our most strategic donors in the skilling space here on the panel to get their thoughts and perspectives on how do they see the situation and what are their forecasts for what we'll see going forward. Thanks everybody, Rahil, Abha, Murugan, Meenu and John, to be part of the panel discussion. Murugan and Rahil, I want to start with you for the first question, which is really how do you think the skill paradigm is going to evolve? Earlier skilling was a lot about training. Now, given the focus on financial linkages, social protection, health, and livelihood, would be great to get your thoughts on how do you see the skilling paradigm evolve going forward? Rahil, I'll probably start with you and then go to Murugan.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for the question, Mr. Pratish. I don't think there are clear answers to everything. Nobody really knows how things will change. But what I can speak to is what is already changing and what we think will be some of the things that will stick. First and foremost, center-based models this may be sort of a death blow to center-based models. We've already had center-based models being higher in OpEx. It's just been a tougher thing. And a lot of the skill training providers have been doing a more gradual transition to technology. This is sort of that, that catalyst that has really pushed everyone. And I think across the board, you're seeing a massive embrace of technology. Now, the challenge becomes that not all skills can be done through tech. So how do you, for the informal sector, for things that are like plumbing, that are very much on hard skills, how do you combine what can be done through digital plus some physical? And I think there will be an evolution where I think the center-based models will all move towards either it'll be purely all tech or it'll be some sort of blended where you kind of can show up at a center once a week, twice a month. But even then, you may see a significant use of technology in those centers. I think that's the biggest shift and the change that will happen. And I think that's going to continue to happen. I think the other thing that's going to sort of be recognized, at least in the short term, is the need for a lot of some aspects of health kind of training in various different job roles. Like I can imagine sort of this notion of standardizing whatever you are doing, whether you're a car mechanic, whether you're in the hospitality industry, anything where you are dealing with customers, where you have to then, where you are giving a product or touching a product, element of sanitization will always be critical, at least for the next 6, maybe 9 months. But it's perhaps a good change in any case from a hygiene and sanitization perspective. I would say those two changes are perhaps the biggest. I don't think there are, this switch towards focusing on jobs. I think all of those have been happening over the last 2 years in any case. I think now there's a much more, I think the crisis has created a focus on that question a lot more, because the need for getting people into livelihoods and how desperate it is for people to be able to earn is quite clear. So I think that has heightened the conversation, but I don't think that's necessarily because of COVID alone. I think that's just something that has sped it up. And lastly, what I hope will be a much faster shift or a bigger embrace of earn and learn models, where you will have people we just don't have the luxury of letting them not earn. How will that sort of get sped up, and how will the demand side embrace that? I think those changes we have to sort of wait and watch on.
Thanks, Ran. Extremely sharp, and I have a couple of follow-up questions, but we can come to that at a later point in time. Murugan, it'd be great for you to add on top of what Rahil has already shared from your vantage point of having funded skilling programs as well.
Yeah, I had actually 3 points, and Rahil covered all 3.
right? I was talking about the center. You know, if you take an average center, a few hundred square feet big, and 50 chairs, even the physical distancing norms alone are going to make it very difficult for the entrepreneur to continue to run that business. Forget the whole other digital piece. Then there's the digital. So I won't cover those two that Rahil's covered, but I had one other point. Maybe I'll come from a funder point of view. I actually had the earn and learn as well, but you took that. I took the when we normally look at investments in the skilling side, we always used to look at skilling as an area where there was a return on investment, right? Where there is a possibility of fee models, revenue models, or someone getting a job and then paying that back. With the economy the way it is, I think funders gonna have to have a little bit more patience in terms of expecting a return. I think we're gonna have to move towards a little bit more of a philanthropic mindset, because the ROI is gonna take a while because people are not gonna get jobs immediately, perhaps, right? I hope that's not the case. But I think from a funder point of view, in my own mind, when we are gonna look at funding this year, normally we say, okay, what's your revenue model? How much subsidies? What's your per student cost? Has it been going down every year? I think this year we're going to have to say, okay, we're going to have to add a little bit of philanthropic element to it. A good example is even what happened for our existing portfolio organization. They came back to us and said, we'd like to repurpose some of the money into scholarships, because most of our students, their parents are rickshaw drivers and vegetable cart pullers and so on. Normally they pay us 500 rupees, but they're not able to do that either. We'd like to turn that around and help the family, and then so that they can then in turn help the kids get educated and skilled. So I think that's the only addition I would make to what Rahil already laid out in terms of the physical model, and digital is going to be playing a big part in enabling a new skilling paradigm in many different forms. So I think I'll leave it at that.
Absolutely. Thanks, Murugan. I fully agree with you as well. I think one of the things across the board, not just in skilling, that nonprofits have to amp up is their ability, or organizations in general have to amp up is their ability to be a lot more robust and agile with technology today going forward. So thanks for bringing that up. I want to bring in Abba and John next. Abba, one of the things that, just building on what Murugan is saying as well, is just the types of capital that's going to come into skilling is going to be a lot more different now. We need the patient capital. We need the industry to come in. Government's talking about bringing in money as well. And we've always had a conversation around development impact bonds, around, skilling. Is this the right time for development impact bonds to come in? How do you see that? It would be great to hear both Abba and John's perspective. Abba, if you could go first.
Great. Thank you, Ratish, and thank you all of you for having me on the panel. So let me take that question slightly differently. The answer to capital is always yes. The question is the tool, and the tool is and what does this particular tool bring alongside capital to the conversation? As you talk about pivoting models, I think my focus being on outcomes is which model gives you the outcome. Do you still enable outcomes as you pivot models? And what development impact bonds allow you to do is focus on outcomes, whatever the model might be. So what the flexibility of the finance offers is enabling those service providers to do what they need to do, pivot their work, and funders can pay on the basis of outcomes. What we might have to change is the rigor of the outcomes that we might have previously expected. As your ROI keeps improving in terms of financial outcomes, we would also be looking at sort of higher order things, increased income, and we might have to reduce those slightly, but outcomes can be the focus and you can develop. The second is, apart from flexibility, I think is collaborative finance. We don't think development impact bonds work suboptimal scale. So we would always do this at scale and do it large scale so that we can enable a lot of people to work collectively together on outcomes. So if you combine flexibility, you combine the time where flexibility is required and combine the need for philanthropic capital to work alongside impact investors, we can bring that together in impact bonds. So yes, now the time is right as far as we're concerned. I think what the sector will have to help us with is those models and those providers who are able to jump on here, show that kind of adaptive attitude to that kind of finance. And finance should always be flexible to work with providers. And of course, Ratish, you were talking about the gig economy as well, and we'd love to know what models come from that as well that can be put into this. But given that will be, I think, a space that will grow in the months to come. So that's my 2-bit, and I can always give you a lot more detail on what we're actually doing on this.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. And I think if DIBs can be a way for spurring innovation right now in the skilling space, because that's really what we need. So there's a way to make that happen. It's great. And I want to come back on the gig economy point that you made, because it is an important area for us to innovate on as well. And we've been doing some work there. Would love to talk about it. John, I'd love to get your perspective. UBS having played a fairly active role in the DIBs over the last few years, actually, globally.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. I think I would agree with Abba. I think the answer is always yes in a way, but devil's in the details. I think we could start with the argument to the government or to the funder. Really, what we're seeing now in the funding landscape is every philanthropic funder and really government budgets are shifting towards a near-term need, which is mostly around health and sanitation type interventions. So budgets, in a way, there's a massive shift, and most of our partners working in the skilling and education space actually struggling to get funding because funders that are open and even government budgets are shifting towards the immediate needs. But what the DIB offers is actually the funding to be deferred, right? So the outcome funder is on the hook to pay at the end of the DIB in the structure. So funding that is tied up now towards the health intervention, we can go to a payer and say, you don't need to pay now. You pay for the outcome when it occurs over time. So in a way, you could argue the DIB is more appropriate now for that type of situation than it would have been before, because the case to defer the outcome payment is higher. On the topic mentioned earlier between ROI and kind of the current situation, we kind of think of it, maybe it's a false choice, right? Because it really depends on your time horizon and what you're looking at. So the DIBs, in a way, all the ones we've worked on are medium to long-term instruments, and they can even be elongated beyond that. And I would argue, although there's still the jury's out, that the COVID-19 crisis is and will be a temporary shock. Of course, when we come out of it, the world will look different, but labor markets will adjust, and employers and employees will continue to identify themselves. There will still be a skill gap. The skills demanded will be different, but the parameters of the problem really won't change. And so if you believe that this is kind of a short-term problem, if you're setting up a long-term DIB, we think it's still appropriate. I'll give you an example from one project we're doing in South Africa with an organization called Harambee. This is a development impact bond in the skilling space. And here,
John, just in the interest of time, John, if I could just ask you to hold on to that for a second.
Sure.
We could come back to that example at a later point.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your understanding. Mino, I want to bring you up next. Thanks so much for joining. Chitra here on the chat has been talking about inclusivity. I mean, especially when there's a crisis, there is that 80-20 thinking that starts to emerge, saying, oh, let's try and look at the mainstream a lot more. But inclusion, and here I include socially excluded people, people with disability, and so on, start to become less important in the larger scheme of things. I wanted to, you've been a champion for inclusion in the skilling space and in general overall for the last many years. I wanted to get your thoughts on how do you see this panning out going forward, and what's your own forecast towards this issue?
Thanks, Ratish, and thanks for this opportunity. Good to meet everyone after such a long time. So in the last 2 months, what we have seen panning out, especially in the disability space, on one hand, work from home, flexibility was something that people with disabilities always asked for, but it was either never given or was given by very few organizations. It was a part of reasonable accommodation, given only to some people. But COVID changed that. And today, work from home and flexibility became a norm for everyone. And which is what people with disabilities have been rallying around and saying that, oh, look, this is something that we asked for, and you used to think that you are doing a favor by giving us work from home or flexibility. And today, whole world needs it because this pandemic has impacted the whole world, and 90% of employed workforce is working from home. And they need that flexibility because they have children at home, they have other responsibilities at home, so juggling all that. However, one key aspect that has also come about is that even for those people who have been working already, how non-inclusive technology has been in facilitating their work from home. We say that, we will skill people with disabilities. And today, with more technology, more and more people will be able to find work. But in the absence of education, especially when you're talking of technology, when you're talking of deliverables, your key communication skills, spoken as well as written, become so critical in being able to reach out. And how are we going to build those skills in people? Technology, I see Google Meet and I see closed captioning. You click on that and whatever I'm saying is coming in the forms of captions, and people with disabilities are able to read it. When it comes to virtual learning, virtual training, how will this ecosystem look at including those people? So there are two things. On one hand, the demand will be to make technology accessible, inclusive, so that people with disabilities do not remain at the margin. But with the speed at which it will move, I think it's also going to exclude a lot of these people and push them further to the margin. So I think that is a big worry in the space.
Thanks. I think you're making a very, very important point, and I want to reiterate that because we are also getting questions saying, are some of the models amenable to technology? But I think the larger questions are some of the people that we are skilling amenable to and ready for technology. And in some sense, what is the impact on the education system, hence, to even get them to a point where they can be ready for technology? I think is a very, very important point. So thanks for bringing that up. I just want to go to the next question, Rahul. This one's for you. We've been talking so far as funders about how do we ensure readiness. I mean, funding on the supply side largely. How do you fund for getting people, trained and so on? But is there a role for philanthropy in catalyzing demand in some sense? Where do you see investments that actually can create jobs? And is that something that donors should focus on as well?
100% yes. Without even, it's not just from a COVID perspective, but I think if we look at this, the problem in India today, or not even today, the last few years or longer, is not just a skilling problem, it's an employment problem. Skilling is definitely one of the many solutions to address employment, but if you don't have the right jobs, you don't have, aspirational jobs that give meaningful livelihoods, I don't think skilling in and of itself is going to solve that. And there are lots of things that funders should or could do on the demand side. For example, some of our financial inclusion work, we've seen to the MSME sector, for every 2 loans that are given, one job is created. Right? And a lot of these jobs sometimes are, much more women-centric. A lot of new jobs for women, first-time jobs as well. So, I think that's just one example. There are many things in terms of facilitating more opportunity when it comes to catalyzing demand. The other day I was reading that, today, top coder in the COVID crisis, 5x, they've seen a surge of 5x in terms of freelance workers signing up for the platform. I think that's massive. I think it's a huge opportunity sort of democratizing access to enterprises that are on this platform. You don't necessarily need to have like a degree from a tier 1 college. If you have the skills, but getting the access, I think, has been gated through a recruitment process that said you need a degree. And we all know for a lot of jobs, it's not the degree, it's the skills you have, right? And it's great to see a lot of platforms like Top Coder. You see the nonprofits like Navgurukul that are leveraging these things, where you can earn and learn and get some of these really high-end skills. So when it comes to thinking about the demand side, I think there's a lot. I think there's more than a lot of funders have sort of come across the table. I think it does require collaboration. I don't think you can think of the demand side without thinking of the supply side, and vice versa. You have to think of the supply side as well. And the opportunity again over here is that there will be funders who are much more focused on the supply side. Are we having those conversations with the demand side funders and seeing where we meet in the middle? I think government can play a big role in this. There are bodies like NSDC that can coordinate some of this work. I can give you many more examples, but I'll just pause there in the interest of time.
And fully agree with you, Rahil. The two things that you said. One, I think funding MSMEs and making sure that they sustain themselves for them to create jobs, I think is a very, very important point. And it's inextricably linked right now, and we see it a lot more. And the second is hiring and talent search has always been optimized for the recruiter rather than for the person with the talent. And I think that's finally changing thanks to platforms like these that are able to demonstrate merit. So thanks so much for sharing that. I want to jump to Murugan. Murugan, I think one of the things that, there's generally been a bias in this skilling sector towards the 8% organized sector, like an inordinate amount of focus on a very small part of our working population. Given the post-COVID world, again, we're talking about trends that have been in the process but are getting catalyzed. Do you see a larger focus on informal workers and gig workers? It's not that it wasn't there before, but do you think there's a swing towards focusing a lot more on those workers going forward?
Yeah, I think you said it right. That's a trend that has already crossed the Rubicon, right? I mean, it's not going back. It's, if anything, I mean, I would look at it this way, because this is a global problem that almost every country is now facing. Probably the first time everyone's facing similar challenges around the world. And if you look at, let's say, what NSDC, since Rahil brought it up, NSDC and the sector skill councils have, their goal or their vision was always to make India as the talent hub for the world, for all sectors, and not just IT. Perhaps this is a fresh opportunity for other sectors as well, where India can be that gig working talent hub for the world, because everyone's going to have a clean slate start on, okay, what am I going to do to hire people? With a new business model, maybe low OpEx, virtual is a new norm, people can work remotely. I think this provides some wonderful new opportunities specifically for India in terms of accelerating that move towards gig workers and kind of the, I don't like to call them, informal anymore, because, they should be part of the formal economy. They are formal, they pay taxes, they do everything else that a formal employee or employer does. So I think, it's a trend that is, there's an opportunity for India to really kind of take this moment and accelerate the whole move to gig, with India being the talent hub, which has always been the dream of the, sector skill councils of the world.
Thanks, Murugan. I fully agree with you. And this is a massive opportunity even for priorities to be rethought out in my mind. Who seeks such behavior? I think there's probably a lot more shift towards gig being and the new norm as well. So thanks so much. I want to shift to John and Meenu. John, I think again, another perception is looking at skilling from the lens of grant funding. It's seen as a pure play philanthropic funding, but the problems that we are solving have always been market-based problems. So wanted to get your thoughts on how do you see equity and debt funding being relevant, in this context, especially going forward, and do you see a lot more action there? And I'd love, John, for you to start, and then Meenu can jump in as well.
Sure. I mean, I think the one place where I've seen some development and we've been looking at is the income share agreement, which is in a way a combination of debt and equity. It's kind of the ability to take equity in the future of a training participant. I think it's challenging. We haven't seen them take up as much because it's a bit difficult to articulate and communicate the product to students. So while the funding is there, often the students are a bit concerned and don't understand the implications, etc. So I think one of the barriers is to be able to design a product that kind of solves the funding problem, but is simple enough to communicate and can be taken up. As I think there's always going to be interest in these kind of funding instruments. And it really depends. At the end of the day, the employer is the one that will get a benefit and should be on the hook to pay something. And so you can think of a student loan as a DIB where the outcome payer is the employer. And I think the student lending piece definitely has potential, again, provided the products can be well designed and easily communicated to participants.
Excellent. Thank you, John. Meenu, over to you. Meenu, you're on mute, so we can't hear you. Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
So thanks for sending this question in advance. And yesterday I was on call with my colleagues in EMEA and North America. And as funders, we have been deciding where to give and where to invest in the last so many years, and how is COVID changing those things. So it was interesting for me to have the discussion with them, and from a global perspective, our view is that we will enter a period of caution for quite a few years as countries will rebuild their economies. There are fears that countries focus inwards. The global market will dislocate into more regional alliances with parts of world that successfully managed COVID in Southeast Asia and Pacific being isolated from those that were less successful. So if you're thinking that a lot of global work will come to India now, it will be outsourced, I think that will take a beating, that will take a hit. So I think, but new opportunities will emerge. Countries, I think, have also realized that global supply chains are fragile and critical supplies can be easily interrupted. So health and other sectors, medical supplies, for example, there will be more investment in those. But I don't think funders are macro economists. They would leave development and of economies to governments and corporations. But the dollar, I think, initially will move to rebuilding and reestablishing internal markets. It will naturally encourage some innovation, but in general, I think citizens will want to have what they once had and what they once trusted. So it will how long it will take after this epidemic, it is impossible to estimate right now. But I think we are still at the beginning and not at the end.
Yeah, I agree. I think, and again, this is for me a very Hamlet type question that I've been discussing with a lot of the donors I've been in touch with to do or not to do right now, because there is an immediate need. How do you respond to that, and how? But thank you so much for sharing that. I want to take a few questions from the audience as well. Rizwan has a question where he's making it an either or. He's saying, rather than looking at fresh skilling, should we look at focusing on focusing on reskilling the people that have been laid off? There is, like we said, the supply side is changing because there is a retrenched workforce. If given a choice to the funders, where would you put your money on? And if let's assume the money is limited, would it be to skill fresh people, or would it be to skill the ones that have been laid off right now in the workforce and have to go back? Anyone in the audience, among the panel, want to take that question and answer?
You got to give it to someone, Ratish. We're all on mute. No, I don't think there's an either or. It's a very difficult. It's not an either or situation. It's really a question of how well structured the proposal is. Where do we see the most, innovation going on in terms of the proposal? What's the impact? It's a standard metrics that we normally look at when we evaluate any proposal. We'll probably revert back to that. We may or may not have a bias around, okay, this one is, someone who has a family versus that one can still have a few more years to figure out. Then you get into a slippery slope. You can't put those measurements. So we'll stick to the grant execution model that we have and evaluate it on the merits of the proposal. I think that's the right thing to do in my opinion. You're on mute, Ratish.
Thank you. I was saying that it's not just a target segment-based prioritization, but really the effectiveness of the solution that's coming through. A poor solution for target segment 2 cannot win over an effective solution on target segment 1. I agree. Meenu, I don't know if you want to add anything to that before I move to the next question.
Yeah. So one is if we see the current in the medium term with schools and colleges being shut, for example, a person not having an opportunity to even skill himself or herself, I think the focus of a lot of funders may move towards improving and managing household incomes and continuing to support and motivate individuals to remain connected to the skilling ecosystem so that they are able to a vibrant community with a well-skilled population seems to be the most attractive way to catalyze change in this space.
Got it. I want to move to the next question. I think this is from Murugan, and I'd love to also have Rahil chime in because you talked about it as well. You talked about job-oriented tech programs being a lot more technology-based, but do you see that being relevant to the large group of skill programs that we have, given a lot of our skill programs are high-touch, hands-on, etc.? Rahil, you touched upon this, for the informal segment. And I don't know, I'm probably, just also asking Murugan from your perspective, being in Cisco, do you also see a greater uptake for innovations like AR and VR, people being more open to that for some of these high touch roles, and I know G has been trying that in the healthcare space for a while. So we'd love to see, question number one, will technology be relevant to the large share of skilling programs that we are running? Sub-question there is, will there be a greater adoption of technology that we might think is a little more ahead of time, given current circumstances, but maybe more relevant to the COVID context?
Rahil, you go first.
Okay, fine. So there is going to be, obviously, and we're seeing a lot of adoption of tech. Now, when you talk about job-oriented tech programs being high touch and hands-on, I don't understand whether that high touch necessarily means physical. There are lots of high touch that can be completely virtual and digital, right? So one of our portfolio companies, which is Nguru, has launched a live class product, which has done really incredibly well. And the feedback, the retention, the participation of students has been fantastic. It's been phenomenal. I think if you control for the quality of trainers on the platform, are they well trained? Is the technology good? Is the UI good? If you control for those factors, you can replicate a lot of high touch quality online as well. So, I guess I was not sure specifically about the question. When he talks about high touch, does he necessarily or she necessarily mean it's going to be physical? Because I think you can, and a lot of people are moving towards that. The other thing that we're seeing in high touch is the introduction of bots, WhatsApp-based chatbots. These definitely replace some amount of, complement the self-learning component that comes with online digital models, where if someone gets stuck and they don't have somebody to ask a question to, it's ridiculous to kind of expect them to continue doing more of the same question if they've not got the concept. So to be able to chat with some kind of AI-based chatbot, which is, I don't think that's a technology of the future, it's a technology of the now, right? I think it only gets easier and better, and maybe more voice recognition with vernacular can perhaps be better or something like that. But you can start seeing a lot of components of blended high-touch models. And potentially in the post-COVID scenario, you can think about high-touch where you are meeting people physically at a much lower frequency. So you could, you may not need to have a lot of space. You can ration that space out over longer periods of time, get a high capacity utilization as a result. There are interesting models that could evolve where you can blend some of these things as well. So I don't necessarily think of this as just either or. You can start delivering things virtually, but I think you can start replicating high touch virtually as well. And we've seen that in our portfolio. We've seen it work really well. And we have a very small portfolio. I don't think I can speak for the rest of the industry, but if we've seen it, I'm sure there are many, many more examples of that.
Thanks, Rahil. Murugan, I'm going to skip you on this one, Murugan. I'm so sorry.
No worries. I don't have much to add.
Yeah, I think there's a good question there in the panel. I want to make that my penultimate question, then we'll close with the last question, which is, what do you think we will not do? Funders will not do in the post-COVID world. Are there things that you're doing today that you think you will do less of going forward? And I think that's a great question to ask. And just probably give a few seconds, but anybody can go. If you're not picking it up, I'm going to call by names.
Yeah, I can jump in and just give a quick answer. I think there's a lot of discussion now in the funding community about restricted versus unrestricted funding. I think the crisis made a lot of foundations kind of rethink the degree to which they want to restrict financing. And in a world where there's a high degree of uncertainty, trying to tie your funding to specific activities probably makes less sense. So I imagine there's going to be more of an evolution towards funding that's flexible and adaptable, and hopefully, and as we think, give more ownership at the end to the end recipients. The development impact bonds that we talked about earlier are an example of that, where really the agency goes fully to the grantee, and they can undertake whatever activities they wish. So that's what I think and maybe hope.
Yeah, that's a great answer, John. Thank you so much. Any other thoughts?
I think a lot of funders now, especially those who are funding education and skilling, especially hands-on, will focus more on tech and be very careful about the impact that a pure brick and mortar model will have on deliverables and on the beneficiary. So I think post-COVID, that is a big impact that will see a hit.
Got it. Makes sense. Great. We have 4 minutes on the clock, so I want to close this on time. One question to all the panelists. It's a 20 lakh crore announcement that's been recently made by the government. More details are coming out. The finance minister released a document today as well. If there's one thing that you would ask the government to invest in the light of the current crisis, what would that be? And if you can keep your answer really, really sharp, one sentence on what you would invest in, I think that'll be great. I'm going to start with Murugan, and then we could go to the others.
Okay. Well, I honestly, I don't know. I don't know if we can advise the government on anything, but I would tell you what we should be looking at doing is doing more collaboration, right? And it's an answer to the previous question as well. This is not the time for organizations, companies, funders to build a brand or PR. If you have assets, put it out there for free. Let people access it. I think that would be the thing that I would conclude it with is whatever the government's focus is. They've already announced 5 pillars of focus. There is tech, there is infrastructure, there is demographic, people development, and so on. But I think regardless of that, one thing that we have in our control is that we can collaborate and foster more collaboration within the grantee ecosystem as well. So that's something that I would definitely push for this year.
Great, thanks, Murugan. Rahil.
My humble request would be, if you are going to push this money out into the system and if we focus on skilling, then as you are giving this money to industry, really push the apprenticeships. Like make that something you can link to apprenticeships and can spur that. Because I think the earn and learn models are a way out where you can actually get training done as well as jobs.
Brilliant. Meenu?
I will leave it to economists. I'm not an economist. I don't want to comment on this.
Got it. John, do you have any advice for our government on what we could do?
Yeah, I mean, I would just, rather than say what to invest in, I would kind of ask the question how, and the how for me would be trying to crowd in and bring in private capital. Skilling is inherently, as we discussed earlier, an economic activity. And if they just do it without any private capital, I think there's going to be limits to what they can achieve.
Great. That brings us to an end. We had 2 minutes to the ring of the bell. Thank you so much, everybody. For me, a couple of takeaways. One, technology and the role of technology in skilling is going to be extremely critical. I think that's one very important aspect that I think all of us in some sense highlighted. The second is in terms of being outcome focused and spurring innovation as donors is going to be critical, but at the same time being a little more patient with outcomes in some sense and what we can expect, I think is going to be important. The third is, yes, technology is critical, but the readiness of the population to technology is something that we got to watch out for. We might inadvertently exclude the population we want to impact by keeping a stronger eye on technology. And I think that's something that we want to watch out for as well. Earn while you learn models, apprenticeships, I think are going to be critical. I think it came up in the questions from the audience as well. Finding ways to force companies or MSMEs even to adopt practices around earn while you learn, even treating work as well, while giving that money, I think is going to be an extremely important aspect. And it's not who we target, it's really the effectiveness of the solution. There's really the time to come up with very effective solutions for us to engage funders on this as well. So those are great takeaways for me. I hope everybody on the panel enjoyed it as well. Thanks so much, all of you. I think it's been a great and engaging conversation.
Thank you. Thank you so
Thank you,
much.
guys.
Everyone,
Thank you.
thanks, Ritesh. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you to each and every one of you for being a part of this panel discussion. I think your insights on funding and the funding landscape was very helpful to all of us. So thank you once again.
Thank you.
Right. So let us move on to our next theme, which is the placements, jobs, and livelihood. So we'd like to kick off this theme with a keynote address by Mr. Manish Mahendra Sabharwal, the founder and executive chairman of Teamly Services Limited and India Life Pension Services Limited. So Manish is the chairman and founder of Teamly Services, which is one of India's leading staffing and human capital firm. Teamly is also implementing India's first vocational university and national PPP apprenticeship program. The company has hired 1.8 million employees over the last 15 years. Manish is also a member of the National Skill Mission, Central Advisory Board of Education, and has served on various policy committees for education, employment, and employability. He serves as an independent director on the board of the Reserve Bank of India and is a member of the advisory board of the Comptroller and Auditor General. He is also the managing trustee of New India Foundation's Fellowships books about 1947 and columnist for Indian Express. He got his MBA from the Wharton School and is an alumnus of Sri Ram College, Delhi and Mayo College, Ajmer. Thank you so much for joining us today, Mr. Manish.
Yeah, hi.
Hello, sir.
Hi. Well, thank you for having me. I mean, it's a pleasure to be here. I think you guys are covering a lot of agenda over the few days, but I will just sort of focus my sort of talk. It's 15 minutes on productivity, because, you know, when I landed for the US in August 94 for my MBA, by September, I was asking myself, these Americans are smarter than us. Why are they richer than us? Clearly, there is something in the air which is making them more productive. I mean, why does Ram Bharose, who works 18 hours a day, make 50,000 rupees a year? And why does Joe Sixpack, who watches college football and drinks beer, make $50,000 a year? And then when I came back to India, it became even more obvious, right? After my MBA, it wasn't God's will that it should take 72 years for 1.3 billion Indians to cross the GDP of 66 million Britishers. Why is the GDP of Maharashtra with half the population of Pakistan equal to Pakistan? Why is the GDP of Karnataka with 1/3 the number of people of UP equal? Basically, poverty is about productivity, and the productivity of your geographies, the productivity of your firms, the productivity of your citizens. So I think, to me, that was really, really important to recognize that there was nothing cultural about poverty. You know, cultural explanations for poverty are at best the soft bigotry of low expectations, and at worst they are racism. So if this is really just a plumbing problem, which is the way I think about it, then what can we do about it? Because, you know, the more interesting question than why countries are poor is what can you do about it? And I'd obviously make the case that the infrastructure of opportunity, which is the 3 E's of education, employment, and employability, are really the infrastructure of opportunity. And they're much more closely related than most people think. You can't actually think about employability or skilling without thinking about employment. And in the last 10 years, it's become obvious that you can't think about employability without thinking about education. So in employability, in employment, which is really the exit gate of either the education or the employability system, it's clear what the problems are, right? We have inadequate formalization. We have 63 million enterprises in India, 12 million of them don't have an office. 12 million work from home, only 1 million pay social security. There are only 19,500 companies in India with a paid-up capital of more than 10 crores. So I think we need more formalization. There's inadequate industrialization. Only 45% of our labor force is still working on farms, and it generates only 14% of our GDP. There's inadequate financialization, because financialization is an important driver of productivity of firms and of individuals, and our credit to GDP ratio is 50%. Should be 100. China's 300 is probably the wrong number. And the most important one, which impacts all of us in our daily lives, is urbanization. India only has 52 cities with more than 1 million people. China has 375. We have 600,000 villages. 200,000 of them have less than 200 people. You're not going to be able to take jobs to people. You have to bring people to jobs. Obviously, this resident migrant debate is very new and raw right now because of what's happened because of the lockdown. But it really is clear that you can't really create jobs. And anyway, in the next 20 years, 5% of population growth will be in the 5 states or 6 states of South and West India, and 40% of GDP growth. So we will anyway have to think about how to adjust, because Kerala's demographics are the same as Italy. So I think urbanization, financialization, formalization, and industrialization are important aspects of the agenda for employment. I think the agenda for employability, obviously there's been a lot of innovation around skill delivery. But what we've discovered is there is a market failure in skill development. I mean, employers are not willing to pay for training of candidates. They're willing to pay a premium for trained candidates. Candidates are not willing to pay for training. They're willing to pay for a job. Banks or microfinance aren't willing to lend to a candidate unless a job is guaranteed. And training companies are unable to fill up their classrooms. So an important part of this missing piece is who pays. You know, everybody's trying to topi now the other person, right? Parents, kids want parents to pay, parents want government to pay, government wants employers to pay, and obviously the broadest shoulders should carry the burden, but we will have to, rather than rant about it, we'll have to find a sustainable, scalable solution, because, you know, CSR is not going to skill India. It's going to help skilling India, but you're going to have to find a solution for skilling them, India. So I think that the financing failure is at the heart of our challenge, and I was glad to get some of the earlier panel where they talked about sort of learning by earning and learning by doing. But that is really if we don't fix the financing problem, any amount of innovation or activity in certification or in curriculum or in even in sort of teacher training will not be able to sustain and scale it. India calibration. You know, I'm sick and tired of listening to countries about Singapore's or Finland's school system. I mean, they have less people than Chandni Chowk or Delhi. So India's scale requires a design thinking and a systemic thinking around financing that maybe some other countries don't have to, right? The obvious connected one which we have learned is you can't teach people in 3 months or 3 years what they should have learned in 12 years. And in a world where Google knows everything, learning how to learn is key. Soft skills matter more than hard skills, and curiosity matters more than intelligence. Now, obviously, K-12 education in India has many challenges. 265 lakh kids take the class 10th exam every year, 105 lakh fail. 160 lakh kids take the class 12th exam every year, 80 lakh fail. Of the 80 lakh who pass class 12th, 50 lakh go to college and 30 lakh disappear. But most tragically, only 45% of Indian kids are in government schools. In Japan, it's 8%. In the US, it's 4%. In the UK, it's 12%. In the US, it's 15%. Because if anything should be free in a country and at quality, because it's the foundation, it should be schooling. So I think that even in and this is particularly important for India, because India's farm to non-farm transition, unlike China's, which happened to factories, is happening to services. Maybe you can even say it's happening to sales. Sales, customer service, and logistics are the fastest growing segments of India's market because we are a child of domestic consumption. So it's really important to think about fixing government schools, because we spend the money that is needed, but we don't get the learning outcomes. And we have to confront the two demons of performance management in government schools and governance in government schools. We spent many years lowering class sizes, raising teacher qualifications, raising teacher salaries, and unless we fix governance and performance management, and at a certain level, this may apply to ITIs, this may apply to employment exchanges, it may apply to the Board of Apprenticeship Training, it may apply to RDAT, where you can throw money at the problem, but unless you get performance management and governance right, the institution will not be able to deliver the outcomes that it's meant to or that it's supposed to. So, stepping back, if you think that of the agenda of education, employment, and employability are connected, why haven't we got as much? Because this problem is a horizontal and the government is organized vertically. So you not only have silos between MHRD, Ministry of Labor, and Ministry of Skill Development and everybody else, where we can't do online degree-linked apprenticeships, which essentially requires all three people to collaborate. So, but you also have many ministries outside in Delhi, and then you have state government. So I think the challenge of us sort of getting a horizontal done, or urbanization is horizontal, manufacturing is horizontal, is common to all sort of bureaucracies all over the world. And in skills, it's been a particular challenge over the last few years. But I'd say if we are on our way, we've done more in skills in the last 10 years than we did in the 20 years before that. But obviously, there's much distance to be covered. There's unfinished reform in online regulation. Only 9 out of 966 universities in India are allowed to do online classes, while overseas universities have signed up 100,000 students in India during the lockdown. We obviously need some tweaks to the apprenticeship programs in terms of the caps and collars and doing degree-linked apprenticeships. We obviously need to fix employment exchanges. I don't think they are a wasted institution. They're badly run. We don't need to give up on them. We need to fix them. I mean, Peter Diamond got his work for his surge costs in labor markets work, and that's still very, very relevant for India. How does a kid in Durgapur find a job in Calcutta, or how does a kid in Hassan find a job in Bangalore? So I'd say if you think about employment, employability, and education as matching, repair, and prepare, this becomes a really complicated problem, because matching is formalization is obviously a really big challenge, industrialization, financialization, and obviously financing skill development. The German Minister of Vocational Training had a bet with me saying that the private sector can't solve this. Maybe he's right, but I think there can be some solutions found. And obviously fixing government schools and education, because you can't teach people in 3 months what they should have learned in 12 years. But I'm quite optimistic. If you think about the BRICS classification, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. I mean, Brazil, Russia, and South Africa were misnomers for India, right? Because they are commodity economies. When they do well, India does badly because we import a lot of commodities. I'd say China and India have been a complicated comparison. China and India had the same per capita in as recently as 1997. But China had a different opening balance in 1978. Deng Xiaoping was very lucky, skilled, but he was also very lucky. China caught a 30-year super cycle of global growth, global trade, global openness to deconstruction of manufacturing supply chains. That's not the hand India has been dealt, and the COVID crisis may make globalization slow down even further. But we have something else. We have economic complexity. One of my favorite professors at Harvard is a guy called Ricardo Husman, who says the only sustained predictor of scalable economic success is economic complexity. And India is very economically complex. We make everything and do everything. We don't always do it well. We don't always do it at scale. But I think we're making huge progress. And 2 years ago, we overcame UK's GDP. Last year, we crossed France. Now there's only Germany, India is about 3 trillion, Germany is about 4 trillion, and Japan's in 5 trillion. We'd probably cross both those countries in the next 5 years. Obviously, the US at 21 trillion and China at 14 trillion now are far ahead of us. But we missed our tryst with destiny. There are 300 million people in India who will never read the newspaper that they deliver, or sit in the car that they clean, or send their kids to the school that they help build. But this is not a problem like cancer or climate change. It's a plumbing problem. And I think that now with the 3 E's, with repair, prepare, and matching becoming absolute clear agendas to everybody else, I think in the next 5 or 10 years, we will not only cross these 3 countries, but we will also raise our per capita GDP because of raising the productivity of the country, of our firms, and our individuals. So I'm probably going to stop there. I'm exactly on time.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for your insightful session. It was a pleasure to learn about the 3 pillars of development, the 3 E's, the education, employment, and employability. We are really grateful to you for taking time to deliver this address and join Charcha 2020. Thank you, sir. We got to learn a lot from your session, sir. Thank you
Take
so
care.
much.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Right. So let's move on to our next segment, which is a panel discussion on the sectoral challenges and opportunities in the times of COVID-19. It's my pleasure to introduce the panelists for this session. Our first panelist is G. Raghavan, the CEO of Bharatiya Urban and the Independent Director of Amritanjan Healthcare Limited. Mr. Raghavan has more than 35 years of leadership as well as functional experience in sales, marketing, product design, and development across a multitude of industries. Prior to joining Bharatiya Group, Mr. Raghavan was with NIIT, where he served for nearly 9 years. Thank you so much, sir, for taking time to be a part of our session today. Our second panelist is Divya Prakash Sharma, the Director of L'Oreal India. Mr. D.P. Sharma has been working with L'Oreal for over a decade. He has been instrumental in training programs organized by L'Oreal in the country for years. Through the recent Matrix Hair Fest, the company has got many hairstylists and salon owners to one place and has helped them further develop their skills. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us today. Our third panelist is Ratan Keswani, the Deputy MD of Lemon Tree Hotels. Mr. Ratan Keswani has over 31 years of experience in managing high-performance teams across multiple functions and geographies. Mr. Keswani is a highly respected figure in the Indian hotel industry, having joined the Lemon Tree Group in May 2012. Welcome, sir. We are glad to have you here with us. Our fourth panelist is Vinay Gupta, the Vice Chair of Plumbing Sector Skill Council and the Chairman of Bathline India Private Limited. He is a pioneer in bringing the latest global technology in the industry to India. Mr. Vinay Gupta is one of the founder members of the Indian Plumbing Association when it was formed way back in 1993, and he's also the Vice Chairman of Indian Plumbing Skills Council. Thank you, sir. Thank you for being a part of this panel discussion today. And our last panelist is Mr. Jaiprakash Shroff, who is the Managing Director and Chairman of the Shroff Group. Mr. Shroff is the Director of Paint and Coating Sector Skills Council of India and is the Chairman of Kushal Krerai Pune Metro. He has a wealth of experience of over 30 years in construction and real estate development sector. Thank you so much for joining us today, sir. And our moderator for this session will be Rupali, the founder of Content People and an ex-senior editor of Times Now. Rupali Mehra has founded the Content People, which is an impact communications company specializing in strategy, video storytelling, campaigns, events, research, and workshops. As a media professional with over 2 decades of experience, Rupali has worked with global media houses like Reuters, NDTV, and Times Now. Thank you so much, Rupali, for being a moderator for our panel discussion. Over to you, Rupali, for moderating this session now.
Well, thanks so much, Medha, and good evening all. We are here under very, very special circumstances and under very unusual times, also using fairly new technology to get together. So some glitches here and there are only but natural or but human. So thank you for being a part of this much needed conversation at Charcha 2020. Just for our audience, to run you through the format, we will be taking your questions occasionally during the first half of the 60-minute conversations, and we'll boost the questions in the last 10 minutes. We'll try and incorporate as many as possible. So keep those questions coming in. Medha will keep prompting me as and when there are questions coming in. Now,
yes.
Yeah, thanks. So do we have all our panelists on board right now? Yeah, okay, looks like everyone's in. And let's, for our panelists, run through the structure. During the first 60 minutes, we will elaborate on the new challenges due to COVID-19 from an industry and skilling point of view, and the existing ecosystem, and also how we can recalibrate that. And then we'll move on to future casting and look at different solutions that we can explore. So let's jump right in. For starters, the post-COVID world, of course, as we know it, is going to be very, very different from business as usual as it was till February 2020. I would like to start by getting in opening remarks from each of you on the biggest challenges you see keeping the post-COVID lens on. And let's start with Mr. Shroff first.
I think I am not, the video is not available. Can you hear me?
We can hear you clearly.
Okay. So, hi, good evening. I belong to the construction sector, and I believe times are bad for this sector, particularly because we've had three years of slowdown in the sense that demonetization, post that, RERA. So it's not been good. And post COVID, things have been worse because the labor, which is 60% migratory, are on their way back home. They are way back home for two purposes. One is they tend to go around this time to do their agriculture to their hometowns. And second is the concern of the family that they have in their hometown. So we are genuinely scared that kicking or starting off the industry would be very, very difficult, particularly in cities where I come from, particularly in Maharashtra. So it's been a bit concern as to, so retention is going to be the most important thing that the developers are looking at, the construction industry is looking at. And post that, with the remaining labor, how are we going to reskill them to be able to acquire skills that that probably we would have to do with the shortened or the smaller size of construction workers that we have. So all this is a big challenge that we face. We hope today we had the finance minister announcing a great lot of incentives for the migrant labor, but that doesn't still prevent them from going back to their cities. And we have a lot of people coming from Jharkhand, Bihar, Orissa. So most of them are already gone or on their way back home. So that's the challenge that immediately is with the construction industry. Post that, we have the sales and kickstarting the activity with the social distancing and things like that. So yes, we are at a stage where we do not really see how things are going to move ahead, particularly because there is a huge issue of even funds for the real estate, for the buyers to come in. There has been a uncertainty as to what they want, whether the prices fall down. So all this is quite a strange phenomena, and it's going to be a very big challenge for the industry to really gear themselves up and take it forward. So I think hopefully the industry will come out with some norms, or the finance minister tomorrow will announce something that will trigger off more sales, that will trigger off better loans, and that will trigger off people kickstarting their activities. So that's my little take on what is happening now.
Yeah, in fact, in the last few days, there have been all eyes on what the finance ministry has been announcing in terms of measures, in terms of ways to boost economy, in terms of the ways to boost demand. But I'm going to throw it to Raghavan here, since you are from the same sector. Do you resonate with the observations of Mr. Shroff? We have been seeing millions of migrant laborers. They have been going back to their villages. Now, how do you get them back? And also, this gives rise to the other question of, do you take a pause and reskill a lot of the labor, or will it be business as usual once they start coming back? Raghavan?
Oh, okay. Can you hear me now?
Very clearly.
Thank you. Thank you for the question. Mr. Shroff is absolutely correct. He has very vast experience, and his points are quite bang on. Migrant labor going back is a material issue, significant issue. But later on, I think we should discuss a little bit more in detail about how that issue falls in the context of overall issues. Mr. Shroff also touched upon a series of issues that the real estate industry has been facing. But I want to step back a little bit and give a little broader context to the conversations that we are having today. First of all, if you look at COVID-19, I would say that even before COVID-19 came in, the country has always had problems in terms of employment, skilling, and livelihood has been always there. It's a moot point whether the number of jobs went up or went down, depending on who's looking at it, who's reporting it, what kind of calculations they do, etc. The numbers have been always varied, but the bottom line is that I feel that the number of jobs in the unorganized or semi-organized as well as self-employed categories have been growing over time. Maybe it is organized sector jobs that have been under challenge. It's a broad settlement I have come to in my mind with respect to the jobs. Now, coming back to what Mr. Shroff said about the real estate industry, I think all businesses have always been subjected to certain uncertainties. And that is why we all used to fancy a term called VUCA. Even before COVID-19 came, we always used to talk about VUCA, volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous business environment. We almost kept on talking about it in cocktail circuits and every conversations. I think the coronavirus has been overhearing it and said, listen, guys, you don't know anything about uncertainty. Let me tell you what real uncertainty is, and came down to the earth. That's on a lighter note. But the point is that there has always been uncertainties, but there is no doubt about the fact that COVID-19 is the mother of all uncertainties. It has affected everyone in every country. It has affected all the industries, certainly some industries more than the others, and it's affected everybody, some people more than others. So I think the important point to keep on top of this when we are approaching this issue of jobs, skills, and livelihood is that we have to look at what is really happening to one's industry, and one has to look at what is happening to one's organization. Let me make a few points about what I think about jobs, livelihood, and skills in this area. I can make the following 3-4 main points. Number one is, it's very obvious the number of jobs overall available will go down. But that is like the statistician's average. By simply knowing that, we can do nothing about it. One needs to take that and go back to one's organization and see what it means to us. I think jobs in some sectors will certainly go up, be it healthcare or healthcare administration. Manufacturing, there's a lot of optimism. Education and skilling, food, internet, and ITS kind of services will go up. But the important point is not that. The important point is everybody is going to have a pressure on productivity. Connecting back to migrant labor, I would say that it has been a solution waiting for a problem in some sense. What I mean by that is people have always known methods to improve productivity and make our own industry a little less dependent on what we are currently doing. But I think the industry's hands will be forced to look at the productivity. But taking for the overall industry as a whole, I think there will be new jobs, but those jobs will require skilling, either upskilling of existing people or people with new skills. Let me stop here as kind of opening remarks, and I shall be more than happy to talk a little bit more later on about the real estate sector, as well as the ITES sector and education and skilling areas. I'll be very happy to talk. But I think I just want to leave with one sentence. If there has been a good time to look at an apprenticeship route of improving your employee base, there has not been a better time than this. There are fantastic programs that the government of India has rolled out in terms of apprenticeship programs. And I think the whole industry, irrespective of which company, which organization, which industry you are in, this is time for us to look at it very seriously. But I will come back on this when we get the next circuit. Thank you.
Yes, thanks for that, Raghavan. In fact, that is a touch point that we will be looking at somewhere in the middle of the debate on how we can move forward when it comes to skilling and making our workforce equally robust so that they also stand shoulder to shoulder internationally, not just within India. But let's hear it from the other sectors also. The hotel industry is another sector which has taken a beating in the lockdown, which was forced due to the corona pandemic. I would like to hear also from Mr. Ratan Keswani from Lemon Tree Hotels on what's really the biggest challenge that you have faced when it comes, it is quite clear that all the hotels are shut, but then how are you looking at overcoming these challenges?
Hi guys, thank you for this invitation. I'm going to speak a little bit from the two hats that I wear. One is the hat that I wear for Lemon Tree Hotels, and I'm also the chairman of the Tourism Hospitality Skills Council, and therefore I'll pick it up from there. The remarkable piece about hospitality is that it's the first one that gets hit anytime any adversity hits an environment. We've been through it in many cycles and many pieces before, including 26/11 and the wherewithal, whatever happened, the financial crisis. It's the first industry that gets hit. It's always been an industry that has continued to grow exponentially. It's an industry that provides jobs to educated and semi-educated people in the youngest but the largest demographic, which has been our advantage of even skilling people for other industries to poach from after they worked with the hospitality industry or the travel industry for a long time. The terrible part right now is that one, while many sectors and the migrant labor and everybody keeps talking about, I'm very happy with what the government has done there. This is a sector that needs focused assistance by the government. We should have learned from the debacle caused by the shutdown of Kingfisher, by the shutdown of Jet Airways, have understood how much pain there is amongst the educated set of our citizens. The industry hasn't got anything, and as normal, we're not really expecting very much to come through. As I see it, maybe half the hotels in this country will probably get shut down forever. And more than 2/3 of the jobs in this industry will get eliminated forever. I'm talking ever, at least being a horizon of between 3 to 4 coming years, which is a serious matter. At the same time, to support the industry as well as skilling, THSC have done stellar work on apprentices, creating guidelines for specific trades, and we were getting a lot of traction. Lemon Tree and THSC were working with creating opportunities for the employees who are otherwise differently abled or even transgenders, LGBTs. I mean, it's a whole focus that the industry has put together. They'll unfortunately have just come into mainstream. And if at all jobs do come back, unfortunately, all their effort will be wasted because they will come back last in the stream if they do.
Right.
And to me, both in terms of education, younger people, and this wonderful demographic we should have skilled, having done all that, it is a serious matter that everybody in the government and the trade needs to look at. It's a bit of an industry that's on ventilator support, where the plug might get plugged out in the next 15 to 20 days. And that's the reality. So we can maybe speak about skilling theoretically. There will be a lot of people that are available skill that unfortunately will have nowhere to go. And I think the larger piece in our nation needs to look at it. Because if I would combine hotels, airlines, travel agencies, and all the related, every job in our 3 verticals supports at least 5 other jobs in our environment. You put that whole thing into a pot, it's a set of 20, 30 crore people that are going to get affected in the present circumstances.
Right. Also, let's get in a quick word in from DP on sort of the industry which may take a long time to come back, because it does fall under sort of the luxury industry, and at a time when people are thinking about sort of their basic sustenance, sort of grooming and luxury is something which might take a back seat. How are you all looking at these challenges in the next couple of years?
Hi, good evening, everyone. So we all know that we are living in unprecedented times, and for the first time, the human race has faced something like a COVID-19, and this has had an impact on all the sectors and all the industries across the globe. But rightly pointed out, the service sector is the most impacted one when we see today. The salon, beauty, wellness industry is about 25,000 crores in India, gives an employment to 7 million people, and more than 50% of them are women entrepreneurs. And that's probably double the national average. So there lies a big cause of concern, because these have been constituted and created over a period of decade or two. This industry didn't existed 20 years back, and the last 20 years have seen creation of these small micro entrepreneurs, specifically on beauty salons, parlors, etc. And now all of a sudden they are hitting a wall. So as you rightly pointed out, it's sort of a luxury kind of a thing. But today, if you really go back and see, beauty is becoming a necessity. So if you have to step out of from your home, if you have to step out of, you have to socialize, you will wear your makeup, you will wear your beauty per se. So not in true sense, it's a luxury, but yes, somewhere there's a line that we need to demarcate, and we need to. Going forward, the biggest challenge that we face is the sustainability of the business model, because we do think that a large part of the P&L is essentially the manpower cost and also the rentals, and both of them today are being funded through people's savings. So if this continues for some more time, we do see a lot of salons that will face a tough time to recover in the next 6 to 8 months. There's another intrinsic issue that is coming up, which is the erosion of psychological safety of the consumers. And this needs to be recreated. This needs to be reinvented. We need to reinvent the consumer experiences with new mechanisms like e-consultations, e-diagnostic, and various other measures too. So yes, there's an issue, but there's a probable solution as well. And happy to share that a lot of salons have already started sharing these initiatives. And when the country was getting into the lockdown phase, that was the time that people started really inventing these new things. So we are definitely hitting the wall, but at the same point of time, the spirits are high, and people are really taking steps to counter this problem. And this will not be only restricted the way we communicate with our consumers or with our manufacturers. It will be at every stage of the touch point, whether it's the evaluation stage, it's the choice, the execution, or the follow-up. So profound changes in consumer life values are imminent, and sensing and decoding these will be critical, as it is bound to have an implication on consumption of services too. So going forward, I think the two key parameters would be the psychological safety of the consumer and the sustainability of the business model that needs to be redefined with various mainstream measures. So during the course of conversation, of course, there are other measures that the Beauty and Wellness Skill Sector Council is taking, the industry is taking, and the way people are putting in their best of efforts to come in, and we'll discuss during the course of conversation.
Right. So a lot of this actually also boils down to about skilling in the workforce. I think the conversation, whether it is on the real estate sector, whether it is in the grooming business, or any other such sector, even the hotel sector, a lot of it has to do with the workforce. Now, our industries, we do know that the National Skill Development Council, Skill India, there has been a lot of thrust over the last few years towards skilling labor, but we still know that we are about 100 million labor short when it comes to matching the needs of the industry with the right skills that the workforce needs to have. Now, apart from the government, are industries across sectors also willing to take that pause and ready to invest collectively in skilling their workforce and making them sort of ready to towards a post-COVID world? And I'm asking this keeping in mind a long-term perspective, if we can develop an India growth story and looking at least a 10-year horizon. Let's ask this to Raghavan. Maybe you can get started with this.
You're absolutely right. I think you are referring to a study which was done about probably 8 or 10 years ago, which forecasted by 2022, the skill gap in the country will be in the order of 55 million people, I think that those studies, although we need to revisit, but the direction in which the numbers were thrown up have not changed. There are two issues. One is the whole idea that the organizations will get a lot more value by training is yet to kind of sink in. We are quite used to the idea of dragging a person in the last minute, putting him right on the job on the next day, and hoping that he or she will produce exactly what is required. We have to grow up as far as that area is concerned. Countries which we look up to, at least we have been looking up to all the time, whether it's Germany or European countries or UK or Australia, they've been able to do what they've been able to do because fundamentally the skilling was there already. You are talking in numbers, percentage numbers of 85, 90, 95% of the workforce were skilled and certified. Now, COVID, no COVID, it doesn't matter. We have to grow up on that dimension to be skilled. Come on, we need to be skilled. If there was a pressure of skilling before COVID, let me only tell you that the pressure should have gone up 100 times with COVID, because we are all forced to do more with less. There is going to be cost pressure. There is going to be unavailability of skills in the areas in which you want to do the work. For example, you take a productivity in terms of a construction industry. Today, if you want to become a little bit less dependent on migrant labor, because there are 53 million or so migrant labor working in the construction industry. Even if they say, let's say 10% of them never come back, right? You're talking about 5.5, let's say 20%, 10 million people don't come back. Whatever be the reasons. Although personally, I do not believe that they will not come back. Because just as the industry offers livelihood for them, but they also are dependent on the industry for the livelihood. Now, I do not know, it's anybody's guess, how permanent or not permanent this phenomenon of migrant labor going back and coming back. But let's leave that aside. Only time will tell exactly what is the magnitude. But the construction industry needs to move up in terms of being productive. There have been methods, whether it's a pre-construction or using technology or using appropriate software for better planning and using lean methods of construction, they've always been available. It is just that we have been in some ways complacent in not really putting all of them to use because we had an easy option of throwing labor at work and then getting on with it. But I think Mr. Keswani will completely agree with me. His company is one of the leading hotels which have been in the forefront of leveraging the apprenticeship scheme and giving and skilling employees of different categories, really diversified. I really look upon to what Mr. Ratan Keswani and Patu Keswani have done with the hotels. I think there is scope for everybody to do. I would again go back to the National Apprenticeship Promotion Scheme, where it is really rolling out the red carpet for organizations to leverage the skilling opportunity. Government is wanting to go out and support organizations, training programs, and to support them with subsidies during the apprenticeship period of scheme, enabling the organizations not to treat them as workers during the time, and lots of hand-holding and third-party aggregators which will help the organizations get on with the speed. One thing that I would really like you to help promote is the fact that this apprenticeship scheme is a golden formula for organizations which are talking. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to be employing thousands of people. If you're employing 100 people, you can take on 10, 15 apprentices. Like that, the power of the apprenticeship scheme is very high. It offers skilling and employability. Never has there been any program in the country which is at the crossroads of skilling and employability, and that becomes more relevant in a time like this than it has ever been before.
Very interesting, and in fact, that comes, that takes me directly to my next question on ITIs. India has had the concept of ITIs, or industrial training institutes, and there are, I believe, close to about 16,000 of these training institutes. Now, what happens in a post-COVID world? What happens? Can we use these ITIs, and can we use the other skill development establishments that have been initiated in the recent past to shift gears and to create an ecosystem in which that there is upskilling and there is skilling towards a more robust workforce in the post-COVID world. Can I put that to Mr. Shroff?
Yeah, the point that you rightly said was the use of ITI, and I must share an experience here. We have taken over an ITI here in Aund in Pune, and we've been able to convert it into a really institution that makes people employable. Most of these ITIs had been training people who were not really industry ready, as I would call it. They were people who were just taught the basics, but this ITI we were able to convert it into making the workforce ready for the industry. So the mason knew exactly what needed to be done. The plumber knew exactly what was sequence of activities that he would have to follow. So in fact, it's one of the skilling people from the space, skilling horizon can take up, convert these ITIs into centers of excellence and use them gainfully. I mean, they are really lying idle. Nothing much is coming out from them. And the construction industry really needs people and places that should be consistent, in the sense that most of them are working on sites and they have to learn, or they're doing on-the-job training. They do not have a proper institution where they can go and learn these skills. So the best part, instead of doing captive investments into creating structures or structures for training, these ITIs could be the starting points for these kind of training activities, which will enhance the skills of the construction workers and make them industry ready. I think it's a very, very relevant issue that we should take it up.
Right. Also, let's get in Vinay Gupta into the discussion. Vinay, we have been talking about the importance of ITIs and how can they really be now relooked at or become sort of the centers of excellence or retraining in a post-COVID world. Your thoughts on that, please. Vinay, can you hear me? I'm not sure, Medha, if Vinay is online.
Hello, sir. Can you hear us, sir?
Right. You can send me a message, Medha, if he is online, and let me put that question then back at the panelists who we already have. DP, would you like to take that? How do you look at the hotel industry, and because the way services are rendered is going to change. Existing workforce, even in the hospitality industry, will need retraining if our customers are going to be utilizing hospitality services. Can existing structures be used for developing a new ecosystem?
Right. So thanks, Rupali, for the question. So first and foremost, training has been intrinsic when you talk about the service industry. It's not something new to the world. When we particularly talk about hotel industries or salons and spas and beauty, these have been there because the quality and the delivery of standards that we maintain are very high, and they are international standards. And if you see in the last decade or 15 years, this has really accelerated. And thanks to both the industry initiatives and to the private player initiatives, that these sectors, these skills have actually surpassed the usual projections. So just to share a few figures from you, L'Oreal per se trains around 325,000 hairdressers every year, and it's a complete initiative which is taken by L'Oreal. And this is not something to do with manufacturing of the products or reaching out to the consumers. So we strongly believe that you need to upskill the service provider for you to have a better consumer experience for him to actually come back to you. Now, coming back to your question, can we accelerate this? Yes, we can accelerate this. And thanks to the technology today that we have, we can really utilize the ways and the frequency of training. Just for you to know, in the last 40 days or 47 days of the lockdown, we have already trained more than 50,000 beauticians and hairdressers online on the new courses, quick services, etc. There have been new guidelines that have been issued for this sector, particularly which is based on four core pillars. And the four core pillars are infrastructure, client, service provider, and administrative staff. So how do they behave in the post-COVID world? What do they need to do? What are the new SOPs? So all of this have actually been done already and it's out and in the market, and people are getting trained on this through online, through videos, through static imagery. So the avatar of education will change. The education will definitely remain the intrinsic part of the industry. It's nowhere to go. We are accelerating it, and for sure, in next couple of years, you would see the numbers going to multiply a lot, because, as you say, there's always an opportunity in a distressed situation. So I think this has really given the industry to come together, and competitors, no competitors, they all are working to help each and every other member of the fraternity. Just to share an example with you, all the big chains and the big salons have actually come together to train the, let's say, the smaller and the mom and pop stores in the industry. So as an industry, you see a lot of cohesiveness coming together. People are trying to get together to help the community in totality and not think only about themselves. So that's a big opportunity. And I think with community coming in, this can really multiply and can really reach millions of people in the country.
Right.
Add one
We've also got some.
Add a point to what he said.
Go ahead.
So I think you are absolutely right about utilizing existing on-ground capacity for skilling. Because if you look at skilling as a very major agenda, if everybody thinks that skilling can only happen if they have a capital expenditure to set up a facility and then get started with skilling, then you lost the battle, because you don't even get off the ground, because it looks a very mountainous task. Therefore, your question about utilizing ITIs or any other education institutions or any other institutions, because education at the end of the day, skilling at the end of the day is a capacity business. So there is IT capacity everywhere. Schools don't get used in the evenings, and there are many options there. Therefore, setting up centers of excellence in partnership with the academic institutions like ITIs, making what we teach them very relevant to the industry is the way to go. There is, I can give you an example of Daikin Air Conditioning Company, of which I'm a management advisor. They have about 30 centers of excellence in the country, all in partnership with academic institutions. The number of people they've been training in those institutions is very high. And it is very easily possible for everybody to lift off that kind of a format, to utilize existing resources. Everybody will be more than happy to partner. The whole idea of Sector Skills Council is also born on the fact that the industry will come together as a sector and utilize resources to do skilling. So I just thought I'll add that perspective to what you asked and what VP said. It's a very valid point.
Well, indeed. And we've got a lot of questions coming in as well. So I am going to pose a few. This question is to Mr. Ratan Keswani. And we have Rizwan Khan, who's asking, there will be some sectors like the IT, the ITES, telecom, healthcare, etc., which will have new opportunities. And on the other hand, the THSC will be struggling. Now, can't there be a cross-SSC collaboration where we can map the current skills of the tourism workforce with the required in the other sectors, so that we come up with short-term training programs to re-employ the THSC workforce? So that's quite a valid question there. Mr. Keswani, would you like to take that?
Yes, so it's a very valid point, and I think we'd be happy to consider that as a THSC endeavor. So far, THSC has skilled people and has then provided those skilled persons to the industry. Now you'll have to find the skilled people within the industry and try and take the other skills council assistants to provide them with other training so that they can probably cross-pollinate across industries. But it's a valid point. I'm happy to engage with the sector skills chairman and CEOs of that particular vertical to be able to find if we can find certain programs to run that piece. Would be happy to. I think it's a great idea.
Right, and we also have Vinay Gupta joining us. He has come online now. Vinay, good to see you finally online. So I'm going to take a few words from you quickly before we move on. We are in the midst of a discussion on what next really when it comes to COVID-19. We have been talking about the challenges. We're now looking at various options in which the ecosystem can be redesigned. Can there be sort of reskilling, upskilling, and cross-skilling if needed within industries? So if you can, within a minute, highlight your challenges and your way forward, Vinay.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Sorry, I was basically got connected as an audience rather than as a panelist. Never mind. I've been hearing some conversation, lost the last few minutes. I'll be limiting myself to the plumbing sector. I've heard Mr. Keswani giving in views. It's very, very depressing. But yes, there are challenges. And what I would say is that, let's look at the challenges, the solutions, and then the opportunities. And challenges is same for everyone. There's a problem of labor shortage, the disruption of supply chain, cash flows of MSMEs, and the solutions. I was listening to the discussion that we had. We have to change the new ecosystem now. Now the solutions for, let's say, the manpower. Now, what the new ecosystem has to be, that the MSMEs, whether they are industries or service centers, have to work as training partners. And the new challenge would be that the NAPs that we have been working on, the apprentice scheme, has to be more active. Earlier, it was thrust upon people. Now, I think this is the need of the hour. What actually would happen is that once you have NAPs, you already have a good ecosystem of training partners. You have trainers, you have got assessors. Now these training partners should work, all these skill sector councils, all should work in tandem. Let the labor work as from the MSMEs, and it should be earn as you work. They'll be learning and also working simultaneously. Now, there'll be a shortage of labor. When these NAPS people come in, a lot of industries are not employing people because of various labor laws. Like MSCs never wanted to cross 100. But when you have NAPS people in, they won't mind employing people in the MSME sector. They will get employment, they will get trained while they're learning, and also earn monies. At the moment, the whole ecosystem was on basically getting the ROIs for the training partners. So this would help in a big way of getting the labor back on work, and also would be very, very beneficial for the industry. Then regarding your cash flows, yes, the government is trying to help out, but the best way would be to start doing factoring. The government should work on factoring, which is prevalent in all over the world. In India, it is there, but in a very, very limited fashion. It is only working with some public limited companies. Now the government should back up the banks to start doing factoring. When you do factoring, at least the eligible manufacturers, the service providers would get the money where they're factored. So that is where the cash flows will come in for the MSMEs. They say 45 days, but then when they are factored, the money would come for MSMEs to run the businesses. And
right,
there would be great opportunities for all of us there, because there will be a lot of housing which has to come up now, because people have been, the government has realized that they need mass housing. There would be requirement for a lot of plumbing products there. Then, as you have seen, the migratory labor going to the villages, there'll be a lot of industries or other things coming up there. The migratory labor should be used to work within the villages, start as the plumbing products are concerned, there'll be a huge requirements in the villages now, and the labor there could be used for the same. Well, we can carry on the discussion, and probably regarding your ITAs and other things, I think besides the ITI, it will be the MSMEs should be now brought in to do the training. Thanks.
Right, thanks for that, Vinay. We've been speaking of the challenges, and now coming to the opportunities that lie ahead in the post-COVID business world environment, really. And there has been a lot.
May I interject for a moment? Mr. Rizwan had asked a question.
Sure.
And I just want to kind of address him again. He had a valid point. I have a message from Mr. Rajan Bahadur, who is the CEO of the THSE, to confirm that THSE has already been chatting with the Health and the IT Skills Council to do exactly what he was recommending. So thank you, but they've just answered that they're in touch and they're at work on it already. Thank you.
Well, thanks, Rizwan, for that question. And moving on to opportunities now, there has been a lot that's been written about how Indian businesses, both MSMEs, SMEs, and as well as large industries, could turn the tide and to their advantage, and also attract international businesses given the environment we are in at the moment. Now, over the past few days, the government too has laid out several initiatives and measures to make India as an attractive export center. What more can be done in this direction? And perhaps let's get in some more fresh views on that. Let's get in Vinay. Vinay has just spoken. Let's get in Raghavan on that.
I think I like the concept of talking about opportunities. I think it's a good segue to go. I look at it in 2-3 directions. I think you alluded to manufacturing. Although the jury is still out exactly how much we'll be able to leverage this whole manufacturing welcoming carpet at the end of the day, I do not know. But there has never been a stronger intent and stronger signal than it is today. There's never been a better environment in terms of people wanting to be globalizing, and more importantly, people wanting to pull out manufacturing from China into other places. So these definitely represent opportunities. If the potential is 100, even if we take advantage to the extent of 30, I think we would have been 30 better off than what we are today. So this is something very important. What it will mean is that in terms of skilled people for these manufacturing sectors, depending on what sectors, etc., I think there will be a need for that. That will be an opportunity. Second thing is we have to recognize the fact that not all the industries will remain hurt. I think in terms of pharmaceutical industries, healthcare administration, those kinds of things will definitely see a boost, and therefore people who are skilled and efficient in those sectors will be required. Third is, I want to say in general terms, there will be a phenomenal upsurge in the need for productivity by using technologies across sectors, and each sector will deploy in its own technology. If you are doing a facility management, you might bring in IoTs and robotics and everything else for facility management. Depending on the sector, I think there is going to be a big upswing in terms of technology uptake. Now, those applications, deployments, and actual executions will have to be done by people, and there will be a lot of opportunities for that. I would say that the last thing I would say is that if you look at the ITES sector, I remain a little bit optimistic about the growth. Why am I saying this? Because in the US, there's a lot of dynamics at this point of time, as I can see. One is the pressure on not giving more H-1Bs, and the pressure on the existing H-1Bs could lead to a situation where there could be exodus of talent from the US, and many of them will come back to where they belong, India. I also believe that when they move in, they will walk in with the jobs that they were doing in terms of the projects that they were handling while they were being done at client site. Many of them will have to be done from offsite, because there just isn't enough talent in America to replace this large H-1B thing. So I think that will give a little bit of boost in the country for that sector as well. So I see opportunities in these segments, and none of them will come without skilling. In many cases, reskilling. In many cases, upskilling. So if organizations ignore the skilling mantra in their preparedness, getting prepared for tomorrow, they will be making a very huge strategic mistake. People are going to make the difference, and people with fresh skills, new skills, upskills will make the difference between success and failure for any given organization.
Raghavan, that's a really valid point, and that is something which perhaps all industries across sectors need to be thinking about. Now, when one talks about upskilling of the workforce, one also talks about what are really the minimum or the sustainable wages associated with this upskilling. If a person is getting trained to the next level, what would be the corresponding wages that one would earn? And this is a mechanism, if we do follow a model like the German model or the Scandinavian model, that's a mechanism that is working in Scandinavia, Germany, and other such nations. Now, in India, how can we get an institutional mechanism in place to match skills with pay parity? DP, would you like to take that? And then perhaps I'll put it to Mr. Shroff as well.
All right. So we all know that today in India, the pay parity does not exist broadly when we see all the sections of the society. So there is an income disparity, and of course, there's a skill disparity as well. So I think for it to bridge in times to come, the skill level needs to get much higher. And thanks to the education and the infra and the government initiatives that we need to take for it to deliver the experience that really required to charge the premium. And we do see that the inflation is there between 5 to 7% in the country. In times to come, this needs to be nullified with the increase in salaries too. So to start off with a basic minimum wage, you need to have certain standards that you qualify for ABC, you are at this level, you qualify for XYZ, you're at this level. So I think there has to be a proper grading system in the country for various levels of skill, basis which the bracket can be decided, and then the entrepreneurs or the workforce can really try and work around that. Today, there is no framework that exists basically, which really helps an entrepreneur to decide what should be the structure of their employees. So I think the first and foremost, the initiative to grade the skill versus equating it to the deliverables needs to come in person.
Right. Mr. Shroff, would you like to take that as well? On the need for an institutional mechanism in place that matches upskilling with minimum wages for that level of skilling. Right. I think we've...
I can supplement that with something if there is time.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. One is, I think, first of all, when we talk about skilling, very often I find organizations doing a glib job of so-called showing training. Okay.
Right.
Unless the training is really thought through carefully to make sure that the person emerges at the other end of the training with skills, then we will only be repeatedly proving ourselves wrong about skilling. So it's a very important point. Second is, there are two things. One is you could be a part of an organization. That means organization to work to create the productivity and then share a part of that to the employees. But when it comes to individuals, MSMEs, individual artisans and all that, I think the best solution that can come up is by creating a marketplace. I don't have all the answers. For example, if you look at Uber or various other customer feedback based preferences that are emerging, if there is a marketplace, if there is a plumber who's coming to your house and is doing the job and going and you're giving a rating, eventually individual self-employed skilled people are going to drive the value upgradation for training and the skills coming out of it, for which a marketplace will be a good place to go. But I think we are far from reaching there, but it's not an impossible thing. We have seen it happen in certain other industries right in this country.
And it's also important because it is necessary to create a robust workforce, isn't it? We have seen the effects of a poorly paid workforce play out. We've seen the effects of a poorly paid workforce play out during the COVID crisis, where we've had millions of migrants with nothing in their pockets really walking back. Now, this does show a huge gap within the existing system also, where often it is the workforce pay which is really at a lower level in order to squeeze the cost of a product. Now, this is something which perhaps we need to be...
take this from you?
Go ahead, Mr. Shroff.
Yeah, so I was able to catch the relief.
We can hear you clearly. Go ahead.
Okay. So the best part about that was she wanted to bring parity in the minimum wages span the country. So what that really meant was that if I was earning 100 rupees in Maharashtra and I was earning 80 rupees in Bihar, there would be a general influx of those from Bihar to Maharashtra because of the difference of the 20 rupees that he was getting extra. Once you're going to have uniformity in the minimum wages, which I'm there could be people who would want to work in their same state because they would get as much as what they would get in the next state. So that's a different angle that we'll have to study. The finance minister has also announced a lot of perks for the migratory labor in terms of housing. So the most important thing that most of us realize that the only place we were safe were our houses in this COVID situation. So houses are going to be important for every human being, and work from home has added another dimension to the construction sector. So people who just had one small bedroom is now looking for upgrading himself to a slightly one bigger house with small study where he could work from home. So a lot of these things are happening, and therefore, if we want to have this parity of wages, upskilling, cross skilling, and then coming to a level where most of them get the same job. So a plumber is able to do some part of the electrician job, and he's able to get the same wages as an electrician could be. So these things are bound to happen. When the labor is going to be in short supply, I am going to do multifarious skills. I'm going to get a better wage, and therefore it's by and one would be having a wage which is in parity with most of the other sectors also, industrialized sectors also. I think the lowest wages were probably in the construction industry, but now with these things happening, I'm quite sure and quite buoyant that the parity in wages would reduce. There could be people wanting to come into industry because there could be good wage opportunities in this. Yes, it is going to be some time that this industry starts off, but this industry is bound to take off because homes are a necessity. Homes are where all of us were safe in this COVID situation. That's what I feel.
Right. We have about just about 5 minutes. So I'm going to leave you with one question, which perhaps some of you can take and all of us can take it if there is enough time. Now let's picture 2025. Where do you see the Indian industry? Where do you see the Indian workforce? Will we be talking of the same challenges, or can industry, government, and people think holistically, not just from a profit point of view, but also from a robust, skilled, employable workforce point of view? Vinay, would you like to take that first?
Yes. 2025, we will have a big change in as far as the plumbing industry is concerned. We have seen a lot of changes even the last few months. We have been to the export business, and we have seen a massive change in the attitude of most of the buyers. Earlier, when people were talking to somebody in like overseas, New Zealand, UK, they were only looking for cheap Chinese products. All of a sudden, they have a total shift. They're prepared to pay better prices for the Indian products, and they want a quality product. So 2025, the change would happen. The India would become the largest manufacturing base for the world, because what is happening is China slowly, even the wages are going up. The confidence level of the buyers is now changing. They are not very keen to buy every product from there. And earlier, the whole manufacturing base was China, because it was the cheapest possible. Now every country wants another manufacturing base, and no other country than India would be the best option for them, because India, besides a good demography for a young labor force, English speaking country, we also have huge in-house consumption. With 1.3 billion people, we can really scale up our businesses. So 2025, what China did in 10 years, we should be able to do in 5 years.
Right. Very quickly, DP, would you like to take this? We have just about 2 minutes, so I'll give 30 seconds for everybody.
Okay. So I agree with Vinay that there's going to be a shift in consumption because India is a huge consumption market. And when we are looking at the consumption pattern today, the typical population of a triangle is now becoming a diamond, which basically means that the upper middle income group and the middle income group is increasing, which basically means nothing but the premiumization of products and services is bound to happen in the next 5 years. So what is being valued today, people would start spending more to enjoy the better benefits and the experience on the same product. So there would definitely be a shift in premiumization, apart from at least a double-digit growth in terms of the consumption of the products, especially when it comes to beauty and wellness.
Mr. Keswani, very quickly, 2025. All right, let's go to Mr. Shroff if he can hear me clearly. 2025, how do you see India in terms of its industry and its workforce? You are on mute, Mr. Shroff.
Hello.
Yeah, go ahead.
Please, you'll have to come back again. Sorry, I was disconnected.
Right. Very quickly, in 30 seconds, where do you see Indian industry, its workforce, its skilled labor in 2025? We are looking at, say, the next 5 years. Very quickly. I just have a minute.
I think it's one of the best times that Indian economy is going to go through. The Prime Minister is really, really aware of the opportunity that this pandemic has thrown open. He hasn't looked at it as a problem. He's looked at it as an opportunity, and he's really coming out with measures that will completely revolutionize the way this country will go forward. People coming from China to India, lots of opportunities. I think it's fantastic.
Right. Okay, so I'm being given a sign to wrap up now. So I'm afraid we will have to leave you with that thought for the other panelists. But thank you so much, Raghavan. Thank you, Mr. Shroff, for joining us. Thank you, DP, as well as Vinay and Mr. Keswani. Indeed, a very, very important and thought-provoking discussion. Thank you. And thanks to the audience for your questions.
Thank you, Rupali, for the
Thank you, panelists, and all the participants too. Thank you for giving your time.
Thank you so much. I'd like to thank all the panelists and the moderator for this panel discussion. I think your insights on sectoral challenges and the opportunities in COVID-19 times has been really helpful, and has got us all thinking. Thank you so much for taking time to be a part of this discussion.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Yeah. So guys, moving on to our next segment, it is going to be an inspirational story. And our speaker is Ruma Devi, a grassroots entrepreneur and a fashion designer. Ruma Devi has trained and given jobs to over 22,000 women from 75 villages in Rajasthan. After being associated with leading Indian and international fashion designers like Anita Dongre, Bibi Russell, Abraham and Thakur, and others, she is expected to launch a brand dedicated to Rajasthan's handcrafted textiles by the end of this year. She is also a recipient of Nari Shakti Puraskar 2018, the highest civilian honor for women in India. We're so glad to have Ruma Devi with us today. Thank you so much, ma'am, for taking time to join us on Charcha 2020. I think we'll be playing a short video now. I'll just play the video. Yeah. Sorry for that. I think there has been a small technical glitch. We're trying to play the video to give you a sneak peek into the work done by Ruma Devi. While we figure how to play the video and sort the technical glitch, ma'am, could you please take over and start the session by talking about your journey?
नमस्ते, आवाज आ रही है?
हाँ मैम, आ रही है, पर आप वीडियो पे ऑफ है। हाँ,
नमस्ते जी सभी को।
नमस्ते मैम, नमस्ते
जी। मैं राजस्थान बाड़मेर जिले से हूँ और यहाँ पे पूरा डेजर्ट एरिया है जहाँ महिलाएं हाथ का काम करती है। वो हमारा 25,000 महिलाओं का ग्रुप है। और अभी मैं इस काम से कैसे जुड़ी और कैसे इस काम से लगाव रहा, इस बारे में मैं आपको बताती हूँ। जब मैं 4 साल की थी तो मेरी मम्मी की डेथ हो गई थी और उसके बाद 8वीं में स्कूल छूट गया था। घर में ही दादी के साथ में बैठ के कसीदाकारी का काम सीखा और यहाँ पे पानी की बहुत समस्या थी, तो मेरे पास में बैलगाड़ी होती थी, मैं पानी लाती थी। ऐसे ही 17 साल की थी तो शादी हो गई 2006 में। शादी के बाद भी घर की आर्थिक स्थिति ठीक नहीं थी, और जब मेरी पहली संतान हुई तो उसको भी मैं अच्छे से इलाज नहीं करा पाई और मैंने खो दिया। तो उसके बाद में लगा कि अब जी के भी क्या करना है, ऐसे-ऐसे विचार आने लगे। तो मैंने सोचा कि बचपन में दादी के साथ बैठ के कसीदाकारी का जो कार्य सीखा है, इसी से कुछ करती हूँ। तो फिर सुई धागा लेके बैठ गई और छोटे-छोटे बैग बनाने शुरू किए। जो हाथ का काम था वो तो कसीदाकारी से कर रहे थे, लेकिन उसको स्टिचिंग के लिए मशीन चाहिए थी, वो मेरे पास थी नहीं और वो खरीदने के लिए सक्षम नहीं थी। तो फिर हमने 10 महिलाओं का एक ग्रुप बनाया और 100-100 रुपए इकट्ठा करके एक सेकंड हैंड मशीन खरीदी और उससे हमने काम शुरू किया था। यहाँ पे जब मैंने काम शुरू किया और मेरे पास में थोड़ा बहुत इनकम आने लगी, तो मैंने सोचा कि मेरे जैसी कितनी और महिलाएं हैं जिनके पास में रोजगार नहीं है, और यहाँ पे गांव में इकट्ठे लोग नहीं रहते हैं, दूर दूर ढाणियों में, दोरों के बीच में ढाणी में लोग रहते हैं, तो उनके तक पहुंचना भी बहुत मुश्किल होता था, क्योंकि यहाँ पे 50 डिग्री प्लस टेम्परेचर होता है गर्मियों के मौसम में। उस टेम्परेचर में उनके लिए मतलब सड़क वगैरह नहीं होती थी, तो हम पैदल उनके घर तक पहुंचना बहुत ही डिफिकल्ट था। तो उनके घर पहुँच के फिर उनको काम के लिए तैयार करना, क्योंकि महिलाओं के मन में काम करने की होती है, लेकिन घर वाले राजी नहीं होते हैं। तो फिर उनको मनाना, वो कभी-कभी तो बोल देते हैं कि हमारे जो घर का काम कर रही है यही करेगी, आप पता नहीं कहाँ लेके जाओगे, क्या सिखा के जाओगे, कल ये हमारा कहना मानेगी, नहीं मानेगी। तो उनको समझाना, उनको बोलना कि हम इनको घर पे काम देके जाएँगे, इनको कहीं नहीं जाना पड़ेगा। तो ऐसे करके कुछ महिलाएँ साथ में जुड़ी, और जब वो सक्षम होने लगी तो पड़ोस की और महिलाएँ साथ में जुड़ने लगी और घर वाले भी साथ देने लगे कि ये तो घर बैठे अच्छा काम हो रहा है। तो ऐसे करके ये सफ़र शुरू हुआ था, लेकिन उस टाइम मार्केटिंग की बहुत दिक्कत थी, क्योंकि अ, ये ज़्यादा पैसे नहीं मिल रहे थे, तो इस कारण भी लोग काम नहीं कर रहे थे। तो फिर हमने ग्रामीण विकास चेतना संस्थान से जुड़ के ये काम शुरू किया। तो उन्होंने बताया कि आप एग्जीबिशन करोगे तो आपके पास में जो प्रोडक्ट है वो सेल होगा, तो हाथों-हाथ पेमेंट मिलेगा, उससे आप अच्छा काम कर सकते हैं और इसके माध्यम से आपको पेमेंट भी अच्छा मिलेगा। तो फिर हमने एग्जीबिशन करने शुरू किए। दिल्ली में हमने सबसे पहले एक एग्जीबिशन किया, तो उसमें हमारी 2010 की बात है, 10-15 हज़ार की सेल हुई थी। उससे काफ़ी अच्छा हौसला मिला था कि हम और अच्छा काम करेंगे आगे। तो उस टाइम हमने आके तैयारी की एग्जीबिशन की। नेक्स्ट एग्जीबिशन में हमारी काफ़ी अच्छी सेल हुई, जैसे 10-11 लाख की। तो उसके बाद में हमें लगा कि ये जो प्रोडक्ट है ये तो लोग बहुत पसंद करते हैं हाथ के बने हुए, तो इसको अब नवाचार कैसे किया जाए, इसमें कुछ और नया बनाए, क्योंकि उस टाइम तो हम बेड कवर, कुशन कवर, कर्टन्स यही बनाते थे। तो फिर हमने पहनने के लिए कपड़े बनाने का सोचा कि अभी एप्लिक एम्ब्रॉयडरी में कपड़े ज्यादा नहीं बनाते हैं, तो हमने कुर्ते, दुपट्टे, साड़ीज ये बनाना शुरू किया। लेकिन इसमें भी लगा कि लोगों को ज्यादा समझ में नहीं आ रहा है कि पता नहीं पहने हुए कैसे लगेंगे। तो फिर हमने सोचा कि क्यों ना फैशन शो किया जाए, और फैशन शो हमारे लिए तो बहुत ही ऐसा सब था, क्योंकि हम सोचते थे कि फैशन फैशन मतलब शॉर्ट कपड़े पहनना यही फैशन होती है। तो किसी ने बताया नहीं, हेरिटेज फैशन शो भी आप कर सकते हैं। तो हमने जो राजस्थान हेरिटेज वीक हो रहा था, तो उस टाइम हमने बोला कि हमें फैशन शो करना है। तो उन्होंने बोला कि आप आर्टिजन हो, यहाँ पे तो बड़े डिजाइनर फैशन शो के लिए आएंगे, आप कैसे फैशन शो कर पाओगे? तो हमने बोला नहीं, हमें फैशन शो करना है, आप हमें एक बार मौका दीजिए। तो वहां से मौका मिला। फिर दिक्कत है कि कॉस्ट्यूम डिजाइन कैसे किया जाएगा। तो फिर हमने और बड़े एनजीओ से मदद मांगी कि आप हमारी हेल्प करिए। तो उन्होंने बोला कि नहीं, आपका लेवल ये नहीं है, ये डिजाइनरों का काम है, आप आर्टिजन हो, फील्ड में काम कर रहे हो, वही आपके लिए बहुत है। तो हमने सोचा कि अब मदद तो कोई नहीं करेगा, लेकिन ये फैशन शो हम जरूर करेंगे। तो हमने ही कॉस्ट्यूम डिजाइन तैयार किया और पहुंच गए फैशन शो के लिए। और जब हमारे प्रोडक्ट रैंप पे आने वाले थे, तो डर लग रहा था कि इतने बड़े डिजाइनरों के बीच में हमारा फैशन शो कैसा होगा, प्रोडक्ट किसी को पसंद आएंगे नहीं आएंगे पता नहीं। लेकिन जब प्रोडक्ट रैंप पे आए तो सारे जो वहां पे डिजाइनर थे वो खड़े होके तालियां बजा रहे थे, और नेक्स्ट शो के लिए तैयारी करने के लिए वो भी बाड़मेर आ गए, जैसे अब्राहमन ठाकुर, बेबी रसेल, अनीता डोंगरे, हेमंत त्रिवेदी, बड़े बड़े डिजाइनर बाड़मेर से प्रोडक्ट बना के उन्होंने फैशन शो किया, लंदन फैशन वीक तक हमारे प्रोडक्ट गए और उससे हमें लगा कि ये तो और अच्छा मौका मिल गया। फिर हमने फैब्रिक में नवाचार किया, हर जगह से फैब्रिक खरीदा, जैसे टसर, मूंगा, मटका, सिल्क में, संदेरी, महेश्वरी, इसमें तो काफी अच्छा फायदा हुआ इससे। फिर हमने सोचा कि क्यों ना इंटरनेशनल फेयर करते हैं, अभी इंडिया में तो कर ही रहे हैं। तो ऐसे करके 10 महिलाओं का जो सफर शुरू हुआ था आज 25,000 तक पहुंच गया है। उसके बाद में अभी हम और प्रयास कर रहे हैं, क्योंकि ये जो 12 साल का सफर था हमारा, पहले हमें बिल्कुल पैसे कम मिल रहे थे, अभी हमें जाके महिलाओं को तैयार किया, मार्केट के हिसाब से प्रोडक्ट बनाना, उसको ट्रेनिंग दी, स्किल की ट्रेनिंग दी, डिजाइनिंग की ट्रेनिंग दी। उसके माध्यम से जो महिलाएं पहले अपने घर में, उनके घर में मैं जाती तो उनके घर वाले अलाउ नहीं करते थे, लेकिन आज वही महिलाएं खुद अपने प्रोडक्ट बने हुए दिल्ली, बॉम्बे जैसे शहर में जाके सेल करती है और निफ्ट जैसे कॉलेज में जाके बच्चों को सिखाती है और पूरे इंडिया के जो ट्राइब्स आर्टिजन हैं उनको भी सिखाती है। और हम भी अभी पूरे इंडिया के ट्राइब्स आर्टिजन हैं उनको, उनके फैशन शो करते हैं, उनकी कला को प्रमोट करते हैं, आत्मनिर्भर बना रहे हैं खुद महिला। जो अभी मोदी जी ने बोला कि आत्मनिर्भर भारत बनेगा, हमारा प्रयास ये 12 सालों से चल रहा है, इसी पे हम काम कर रहे हैं। हमें बहुत खुशी हुई उन्होंने ये लक्ष्य सबके लिए बोला है। और कोरोना में के कारण अभी हमारे बहनों के पास में काम कम है, तो हम आगे अभी उनके लिए सोच रहे हैं कि उनको काम मिले। तो जल्द ही हमारी एक ई-कॉमर्स वेबसाइट तैयार होने वाली है, लॉन्च होगी अभी। तो आप सभी से भी सहयोग चाहिए कि उन महिलाओं को काम मिले, क्योंकि हैंडमेड प्रोडक्ट ही खरीदेंगे तो ही उनको काम मिल पाएगा। तो अभी ये सब चल रहा है और आप सभी का भी सहयोग चाहिए। और अभी ये कोरोना और लॉकडाउन नहीं होता तो इस टाइम मैं यूएसए में होती, क्योंकि यूएसए के 5 राज्यों में बड़े फैशन शो होने वाले थे। उससे हमारे आर्टिजनों को काफी फायदा होने वाला था, लेकिन इसकी वजह से नहीं जा पाए। कोई बात नहीं, आगे और अच्छा काम करेंगे, कोशिश है हमारी जारी है।
जी मैडम, आपकी कहानी सुन के लाइक आई वाज सो इंस्पायरिंग और हमें बहुत अच्छा लगा आपकी जर्नी के बारे में सुन के। जैसे आपने आपने कहाँ से कहाँ तक इतना इतना अच्छा काम किया है, आपने लोगों को भी काम दिलवाया है। और सो थैंक यू सो मच फॉर टेलिंग अस, थैंक यू सो मच फॉर कमिंग ऑन दिस प्रोग्राम। आप आए इस प्रोग्राम पे, आपने आपके बारे में बताया, आपने आपकी जर्नी के बारे में बताया, आपके काम के बारे में बताया, आपकी मुश्किलों के बारे में बताया। सो थैंक यू वेरी वेरी मच। हम सबको सुन के बहुत अच्छा लगा एंड ऑल द वेरी बेस्ट टू यू।
थैंक यू संध्या जी, आपने सबसे रूबरू करवाया, सबसे बात करने का मौका मिला, बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद आपका। और अभी हमारे जो आर्टिजन हैं उनको काफी दिक्कत हो रही है, जो गांव में उनके पास में खाने के लिए पैसे नहीं है, तो उनकी हम अभी मदद कर रहे हैं। और जमनालाल फाउंडेशन ने हमारी काफी अच्छी मदद की है। और एक ओसवाल जी है, उन्होंने काफी अच्छी मदद की है। तो ऐसे करके हमने 2000 आर्टिजनों को अभी खाने के किट दिए हैं और बाकी 15,000 अभी वेटिंग में है। तो अभी ये काम चल रहा है और बाकी हम मास्क वगैरह बना के उनको मोटिवेट कर रहे हैं। उनके मतलब रोज के उनको आदत पड़ जाए इस हिसाब से उनको तैयार करते हैं, क्योंकि गांव में लोग नहीं समझते हैं, उनको मोटिवेट करना बहुत ही मुश्किल होता है। लेकिन अभी सबको पता चल गया है कि ये जो बीमारी है ये बहुत ही खतरनाक है, इससे सावधानियां रखना ही हमारा बचाव है। तो अभी ऐसा चल रहा है और आपने सबसे रूबरू करवाया, उसके लिए एक बार पुनः धन्यवाद आपका।
थैंक यू मैडम, आपका धन्यवाद कि आप यहाँ पे आए और हम सबसे आपने बात किया। ऑल द वेरी बेस्ट आपके फ्यूचर के लिए। मुझे पूरा यकीन है कि आप और भी अच्छे काम करेंगे। सो थैंक यू सो मच फॉर कमिंग।
थैंक यू।
So guys, that was Ruma Devi, and we're so lucky to have gotten the opportunity to hear her inspirational story. I'm sure all of you are really motivated and inspired after learning about her journey. And moving on to our next segment, I think we will be starting our next segment at 7 o'clock. So I think I'll take you through and give you a bit of an introduction as to what is going to happen next. So the next event is going to be a keynote plenary with Mr. Kailash Satyarthi, the father of global child rights movement and Nobel Peace Laureate. And he's going to be in conversation with Gaurav Gupta, the partner and Asia director for Dalberg. And they will explore as to how the existing disparities and inequalities for the most vulnerable in the society have been exacerbated manifold during COVID-19 pandemic. The topic of this discussion is compassionate economy for sustainable development. So I really hope you will be a part of this session, and I hope you enjoy this discussion. Thank you so much for being a part of our discussions for today. I'll see you all at the plenary keynote speech.